Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, Tommy Swagnuts, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Just as a reminder to myself, I'm going to have both of my compressors running on the pre-show, and if I remember, once I go live, I'm going to turn one of them off. I'm going to turn the more severe one off. We'll see how that goes. Hello, John.
Hey, how you doing? You having technical difficulties?
Not exactly. I think I've solved it, and then every time I think I've solved it, it happens again. But then I made a minor adjustment after thinking I'd solved it last time, and I've now put that back to how it was. And we'll just go from there. Hopefully it'll be good. We'll see. Hello, people of Discord. Hello, Righteous. Hello, Peaceful.
Good afternoon.
Hello, George.
Hello, Nathan.
I'm saying hello, not actually looking at your levels. Can you say hello again? Sorry, slightly distracted.
Hello, good afternoon.
Nathan. So, I didn't catch what you said earlier.
About what? About what?
You said like just a warning or something like that.
I'm reminding myself that what I've slowly been doing is removing filters to see if they're causing a certain distortion. Then, when I think I've finally figured out the distortion, which is my master line output, I think is on OBS, there's a little slider below where the lines dance up and down. And if you go into the advanced properties on OBS, you can bring up a... let's just do it. I might as well just do this. I can show this on screen for my audience, what I'm talking about. This is called an advanced audio properties selector, and in here this 75%, or if I turn it to dB, minus 2.5 dB, that is the thing that is underneath your OBS VU meter. Does that make sense? So the VU meter that sits underneath your OBS, that is the thing I think is causing my distortion. Anyway, I've turned it down after turning it back up again. So I didn't realise the two things were connected. So I turned it down in advanced audio properties and then happened to notice that it was the slider underneath my VU bar was minus 2.5 dB, and I'd lowered it in percentage terms. So I was like, oh, that shouldn't be the case. Turned it back up again. And as soon as it started getting near any sort of levels that were high, it started to distort. Not because it was overloading, just because I think, well, it must be. And that's the only thing I can think of. So then I've started to reintroduce all the different filters, but I'm losing track. Obviously, you can do one filter a show and then see how it sounds. Anyway, I'm now up to compressors, but I'm undecided if I even like the sound of them. So I'm going to introduce it for the beginning of the show, i.e. this bit of the show will have two filters, two compressors for the overall output of the show. In other words, everybody is subject to this. And then when the live show runs, I'll turn the one off so I can get a comparison when I compare the two later. There you go. That's it. Very dull.
Okay, can I get a mic check?
Sound like you're in a massive open space.
147-foot hallway.
Yeah, sounds about right. That's how it sounds.
Are you looking for a qualitative difference in the sound or a quantitative difference?
I want to reduce the quantity of distortion to 0. I want it all to be
Nathan
about.
wants his sound
that's good.
perfect.
I want it all to be about the same level. I want everybody to be roughly the same amount of level, and roughly the same amount of dynamics. And what else do I want? I don't want anybody to distort beyond what I can control. In other words, if you distort your mic and overload the capsule in your mic, I can't do anything about that. There's nothing I can do about that. I've accepted that a long time ago. Occasionally I'll mention it if it's really horrendous. But for the most part, I just accept that. But for everything else I can control, that's everybody being within a similar levels of dynamics and everybody being in a similar level of volume overall. I can control those things. And when I try to, everyone else sounds good and roughly level matched, and then I distort. So you're like, oh. So this is never-ending cycle every show. I've not once got one that I've like... Actually, 2 days ago, I was happy with the show. So there we go. Let's not talk about this for the whole show. This is the most tedious thing I can talk about. Just fussy. I want it to be perfect.
I went back and watched that Tom show, the one where he said that he wanted a mathematical equation for science. Do you remember when he said that?
Vaguely.
Well, I don't think he. I guess you could say there is one because one can't be two and one simultaneously. You know what I mean? If you wanted to put it in that description.
That's logic, not maths. Well, because you use numbers. It's pretty loose, right?
Hey, John, if you watch the last Joe Rogan show, there's an Irish guy in there talking about exactly what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, the properties of, you know, if you're going to describe something as being one of something, it can't be two of that thing also. You know, that's a binary. You know what I mean? That's what numbers kind of do.
Well, the experiment stage reduces it down to you being able to discount a 1 or a 0. So a 0 is your null, 0 difference result. A 1 is it causes it result. So it is at the end of the experiment a 1 or a 0 result. Null or alternative is confirmed. You can't have it by your logic. It would be you can't be both A and not A at the same time. You can't be 1 and 0 at the same time. You can't cause something and not cause it at the same time. And at the end of the process, one or other's proven. Therefore, it's a logical inference, isn't it? Right? So it's empirical because you can't violate the law of non-contradiction and have both be true. Therefore, it's an empirical result by way of deductive logic.
Right, but it's just the way you describe it. You know, you could describe it mathematically if you had to, but it doesn't mean that's what it is.
What?
Well, I mean, like when we use language to describe things, even logic, you know, that's not the thing that the language isn't the logic.
I see. So describing something farcical, yeah, like your end result is that unicorns are the cause, and you describe it mathematically and logically like we've just done, with the outcome having not been actually verified in physical reality, your description of the logic isn't making the thing real either. That would be true in the sense that, in terms of physics, experiment is king. You've got to have an actualization of the thing in reality, with you physically varying something to see if it causes something, and that cause is something that's going to actually happen in reality. That's the arbiter of what makes things real or not.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah, descriptions are great. We need them, but that doesn't make things real.
Yeah, we can spend all day long describing time dilation in Narnia, and we can give it very complicated descriptions and qualify those descriptions in mathematics. But time dilation when travelling through wardrobes isn't something that we actually need to concern ourselves with in physical reality, because there aren't any wardrobes that transport you to Narnia. But the maths and the descriptions make it seem so. You could argue, like with heliocentrism, the maths and the descriptions of bending space-time in fourth dimensions, that makes it seem real. Well, it isn't.
You know what? You know the saying, the bigger the lie, the more they'll believe it? It kind of seems like that, because I remember watching Discovery Channel as a kid, and it seemed all so fantastical. They're talking about, like, they even talk about, like, time travel once, I remember. And yeah, it's pretty interesting how a lot of things based around the heliocentric model is so, like, fantastical and so, like, a big lie, you could say. But this was
And
this actually doubled as, like, making it more interesting. Isn't that interesting how that worked?
Every travel.
Neil, we
Indeed,
didn't hear
excellent point, Neil.
I was waiting for Nathan to say that.
So I think you didn't hear what I said?
Yeah.
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
All right, I'm going on mute. I don't know if you hear me or not.
You're good now, Neil.
As is always the way, the point gets lost in the land of digital distortion through the airwaves, and the clarification for whether or not we can hear them is crystal clear. As soon as he'll start to then make his point again, the heavens won't allow it.
Well, let's try it. I was saying time travel appeals to everybody. I was fascinated with that as a kid, even as an adult. So of course, that's what they're going to push.
Now we didn't hear a word of it.
No, we did, Neil. So listen, that's a good point, because it like tag teams with, like, fantasy movies and stuff like that, watching cartoons and movies about time travel. Then they start talking about it on Discovery Channel, and then you're like, your hopes are up, kind of thing, right? You're like, oh, you mean it could be possible, right? There's like this. That's interesting. Because then it could slip by easier, right? Because now you have a bias towards time travel. So now you're more likely to have a skewed view of reality, right? Because you're looking through the lens of, like, oh, it would be so nice if it was true. So now your defenses are down from when they do talk about it. So, yeah. Because I remember watching one time on Discovery Channel, they were talking, oh yeah, it's possible. It's possible, but only to go back, not to go forward, they said. And they equivocated to, like, the guy said, imagine it like a pizza, and you, like, a folded pizza, and you poke a stick through it. It's kind of like that, or something like that. And I'm like, okay. But
what they do is they take two dots on a sheet of paper, and then they fold the paper and say that a two-dimensional object traveling along that paper wouldn't have to go as far to reach its destination.
yeah, I remember something like that. Okay, so you heard it too. See, this stuff is out there.
That was the movie Deja Vu with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, but the two-dimensional object doesn't care how you fold the three-dimensional object it's on. It still has the same amount of distance to travel. It's just a nonsensical argument.
Right, like all these things, the closer we take a look, the more we see there's like really nothing there.
You know, one of the reasons I like math, though, is if you're talking about measurements, it's harder to trick people. But one of the bad things about it is if you got a incorrect concept that everybody accepts as true, and then you use math to describe it, it could fool the entire world.
You mean like now?
Yeah, exactly. That's what heliocentrism did. It took a measurement and created a worldview from that measurement that was based on a false concept.
Yeah, I could take 2 dots on a sheet of paper and draw a line and say that's a straight line. Then I could bend it and say, see, radius lines bend. Do they?
Hey, Sleepy Mario.
Yo. Nathan, when you do housekeeping, just ask the gravity question last.
No problem.
Had a really good discussion for 5 hours last night with this idiot called, what was his name? Rob Parks. He's only got 154 subs. Spent 5 hours telling him that he didn't do science because he's an astronomer. And I always accidentally say astrologer instead of astronomer because I always, even though I try and teach myself how to say these 2 words differently and get the right one each time, I always end up getting it wrong, always. Can't help it. But anyway, I spent basically 5 hours telling him that he doesn't do any science and he thinks he's doing science, but he's masquerading around, dancing around in a scientific white outfit, but not actually doing any science. And he basically didn't like it. He thought that I was crazy. But when I went through scientific method and I tried to show him how he's got no observable, repeatable, verifiable experiment in any of his topics, and when I asked him to explain an example where they did have an experiment, he gave the luminosity values, the lux values for Andromeda. And he basically said that they fluctuate over a cycle period, and he's modeled it out, and he knows exactly when it'll be at this luminosity compared to when it'll be at that luminosity. I said, great. I said, so we've got a bright light twinkling in the sky. I said, like over a given period. I said, what's causing that twinkling? And he said, it's to do with planets and other things that are moving in between us and it over a certain period, and it causes this. I said, lovely. I said, and how did you prove that that was the cause? And he said, well, I modeled it out. And so then I took him through reification, and then he didn't like that it was reification. He thought that was science. And then I showed him how he needed experiment to satisfy the definition for science. It was observation based only. He didn't like that. And then he demanded that I show him where science requires there to be experiment and to be having an independent variable that you manipulate. So I took him through 10 citations. I got through about 6, and he wouldn't have it. He insists that his model is actual science. And I'm like, no, it's not. I said, you can claim that on the internet. You can pretend that it's true if you want to. It doesn't make it science. It's not objectively true. I said, you're just lying, or you're just misleading people ignorantly. I said, but you're not doing science. I said, you're doing observational study, but not science. And he absolutely hated it. So his name's Rob Parks, and it was his latest hangout. It was 5 hours long, but if you stick it on double speed, none of what I say is anything that you're not familiar with. But it's fantastic getting to tell him how he's not a scientist, and neither's PhD Tony, and neither's Blue Marble Science. All these idiots, none of them are doing actual science. They're all doing nonsense. It's great.
Did you say you had a good conversation with them?
No, I wasted 5 hours of my life telling him that he wasn't doing science.
That's right.
Like, do you know what? I could have been watching crap on telly with the missus drinking cider, but somehow I got encouraged into this. And I know I shouldn't have done it. It was like the blue light to a fly. I saw the blue light coming up in Rachel's comments, and I was like, oh no, don't go into there. And then before I knew it, bang, I was in there for 5 hours. And my missus is like, you've just ruined the night. You should have spent that time with me. And she's right, of course. But the reality is, I couldn't help it.
Yeah,
It's a guilty
it's weird how
pleasure.
that works, eh? I
Yeah,
tried
it's
to like,
horrible.
yeah,
5 hours though. I mean, that's like 4, 5, 6 games of football that you could sit through and watch. And in that period of time, it felt it went that fast. Do you know what, man? It was awful. But it's so addictive telling these morons on the internet that they're not scientists when they claim they are.
well, a lot of things are addictive, but not all necessarily good for you, right?
Yeah, they call it an infliction when it's not good for you, right? So I have an infliction with people that masquerade as scientists when they're not actually science, and I'm going to tell them it and start going through why it's not, and they start getting upset. Oh, it's fun.
Well, as long as you're having a good time doing it, that's what really matters, you know? As long as you enjoy doing it.
Do you know, it's a fruitless task. It's a meritless task. It's like 5 hours, right, of just telling these people that they've got everything wrong and providing citation after citation after reference after citation, and they dismiss all of it. They provided zero. There wasn't a single citation or reference that they provided at any point. Yeah, I'm wrong and I'm delusional, right? And I'm like, you've presented literally jack shit. And he said, well, you can Google it and see what my position is. And I said, so you're deifying Google then? I was like, that makes it a religion, dude. And he didn't like that either. He thought that it was silly to infer that he was deifying Google by saying you can see my views on Google. It's exactly what he's doing.
Well, to say the thing is, I would love it if there was another scientific method, another way that we could establish things empirical. It's just that they've not shown us any other method than the one we have now. You know, it'd be great if there was another method, but I've not seen one yet.
Then no, you're seeing the new method is this method where science doesn't prove things. This is the new method.
Right. Like I said, I would love to see a new method where things are empirically proven. But, you know, until then, they're not doing science. I mean, it sucks.
What's wrong with the old method? Seems good to me.
Well, I ain't saying there's anything wrong with it. What I'm saying is if there is another method to establish things empirical, it would be great if they could show us that method instead of just implying it's empirical.
I'll tell you what's wrong with the old method. It doesn't work with their model. So they ditched the good method, the old method, the real method, for the new method, where science doesn't prove things, so they keep their model alive. Well, that killed the conversation. What the heck? He's not starting the show, is he? 5 minutes early?
No.
No, he went to go get tea. He's getting tea.
He's pretending that he's listening, but really he's actually
Now I
on
can
the
hear
shooter.
you in the other room, right? I'm just making coffee.
Yeah, I'm going to go get tea. He's going to go get something.
Gonna talk about me, at least have the common decency to do it when I'm not around.
Yeah.
You know, like we do about Neil.
It was funny.
Yeah, save it for the comments.
It was funny in 24/7 yesterday. I was in there, and not Jazzaconda. Yeah, it was Jazzaconda. Jazzaconda was in there. Now I've heard him because, like, randomly, you know, like when you're bored and you see who's live streaming, and there was a rival chat show on, and I'll not name him because I don't want to name him, but he was on this particular rival show, and he was doing that smarmy chat, you know, where they speak to you in that patronising and condescending tone. And I was like, fucking hell, Jazzaconda's being patronising to someone. I didn't know he had it in him. Anyway, I saw him on 24/7, so I joined up and I starts to question him on how he can talk so persuasively when he's in friendly grounds, but when he's in neutral grounds or hostile grounds, like on Nathan's, for instance, he gets laughed at. But when he's on friendly ground, he's got that perception, that is that air of confidence with him, that it allows him to talk nonsense, right? And I got him cornered lovely on a lot of his nonsense, and he's just an idiot. He's just a complete idiot.
Anthony,
Yo.
you did come in saying you were talking to some moron for 5 hours.
Yeah. It wasn't as a common on this occasion.
I'll pose the question. For 5 hours, who's the moron?
I know. You're right. Yeah, that's why I said it was an infliction. I can't help it. I see the blue light coming on and they encourage me on, and before I know it, 5 hours has gone by.
The blue light.
Well, no, that's the difference.
What's the blue light, Anthony?
Fly, the proverbial fly that sees the blue light that gets attracted to it, and as he gets closer, he gets zapped by the filament.
Okay, thank you.
Well, see, I don't think it's a good analogy, because you enjoy doing it. Anti-flat earthers aren't here because they enjoy doing it. They don't spend all this time and enjoy this. They're not having a great time right now.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Arwin, Neil, Sleeping Warrior, 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Righteous Force, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Start with a bit of a sciencey question. Is it Ballbusters weekend this weekend? I think it is. So, very appropriate. Subscribe to Quantum Erasure channel and be here or be sphere, 8 PM UK time on Saturday. That'll be the 27th, I believe, for Ballbusters. So check it out. And on that note, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, none of them can have actual legitimate scientific experiments, as I demonstrated with a brilliant guy. I was host on a channel last night. The channel was called, what was the name of it? Rob Parks. I don't want to glorify him in any way whatsoever, but he claims to be a PhD holding scientist, and he turns out he's an astronomer. And I basically spent 5 hours last night telling him what he thinks is science. Astronomy isn't science, and he shouldn't be telling people that it is science because it's not. Pointing out that he's not got any experiment, pointing out that he's not got any controlled variables, manipulated variables. He has got a DV, but he's got no IVs, no controls. He's just got speculative explanations like big black holes causing things and woo-woo science all causing stuff that he can model out. And it was 5 hours that I'll never get back. But I got to tell him for 5 hours that he's not a scientist. It's on the channel Rob Parks. His latest upload. Go and check it out and stick it on double speed. It's definitely interesting to listen to me telling him how much he doesn't have any science to support his delusion that he's a scientist. Very good.
For 5 hours. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, Anthony gave him therapy for 5 hours. Did you charge him?
No, but if you do it at double speed, it's only 2.5, and it doesn't sound as bad.
Yeah, but obviously he's in pain. You're challenging his worldview at a very fundamental level. You're challenging his credentials as a scientist at a very fundamental level. And obviously he's going to appeal that for as long as he feels this is fit. And did he get anywhere? Did he manage to win the appeals with you, or what? What was the score?
Well, he basically, in the end, he called me delusional, but his sidekick that was with him, a guy called Norman, he was a structural engineer. He got his certificates out for me and flopped them on his table so I could see his certificates, right? And he's a structural engineer, right? But I spent 10 minutes arguing with him whether or not pressure is a force. And I'm like, if I have to argue with structural engineers whether or not pressure is a force, we have a real problem with science, don't we? Because like he couldn't accept that because pressure is equal to force over a given area. He couldn't accept that pressure was a force. And we argued so much. And it was like, in the end, I was like, look, if you've got a flat tire and you've got a fully pumped up tire, the fully pumped up tire is keeping the hub off the floor because of what force? And the answer is pressure. Now, I know within our side, we've got this topic about whether or not it's structural support or not. I'm not going to get into that, but I want to contrast it from their side, because within our side, you might argue that there appears to be a structural support, which I don't agree with. But on his side, the answer is clearly pressure. It's pressure that's holding the hub off the floor. And to argue for 10 minutes with somebody that's a structural engineer, whether or not pressure is causing the hub to remain off the floor and sit in the middle of the wheel or not when it's not flat, if that's the standard of science that we've got, we're dealing with morons. There's no other way to describe it. That is what we're dealing with.
Okay, cool. So like I say, check out Ballbusters. That'll be Saturday the 27th, unless I'm very much mistaken, 8 p.m. UK, and I believe it's 3 p.m. Eastern, something like that. But yeah, check it out, Ballbusters, Quantum Eraser channel. We'll all be there and none of us will be square. Moving on to standard flat earth debate. Although that is a flat earth debate housekeeping question, right? Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Do you know what he actually said when I asked him to explain any valid scientific experiment in his field that he's ever done? Do you know what he came back with for a valid scientific experiment?
Go on.
He came back with the fluctuations in light between low values and high values of Andromeda galaxy. He said it fluctuates between an X amount of day period cycle. And he says it's low on this day, it's high on that day. And he said, and we've modeled the cycle so we know exactly how bright it'll be on a given day. I said, oh, right, okay. I said, so we've got the flux values or lux values relative to Andromeda. And I said, that's the dependent variable, right? That's the thing that we see, the observed phenomena of twinkling in the sky, right? What's causing that? And he was describing how these movements of celestial bodies that pass in front of it and then away from it over a cyclical period, and how it causes different brightnesses. I was like, lovely. I said, that's brilliant, that. I said, and what did you do to prove that that was the cause of the effect? He said, well, we modelled it on a model. And I was like, oh my God. So we then spent 25 minutes about whether or not reifying models is science and valid science or not. And obviously he thinks it is. And I was trying to show him how it's not. And he doesn't like it because I'm questioning his authority. And then we talked about whether or not science does have authority. It was a mess. It was a clusterfuck.
So he begged the question of orbits, and then he justified his begging the question of orbits with a model that he made of orbits. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, orbits isn't begging the question policy.
We got into the argument about the great year, 24,000 years, 25,000 years great year cycle. And I said to him, how can you distinguish that the great year cycle is not an evidence for stellar parallax? And you can't, because we've only been on the planet for around 8, 9, 10,000 years, whatever they say it is. We've not been here for the whole period of 24,000 year great year. Yet you would need to be in that period to be able to have evidence that the great year period, time period, actually exists. Because if you've only been here for half of it, well, that would equally be half of the stellar parallax, because one side it's moving one way and then it moves back the other way with stellar parallax, and we haven't even got halfway through the great year period. Yet he's insistent that it's the great year, and I was like, we have no evidence that the great year even exists. We've only been on the planet, apparently, according to modern science or modern archaeology, for around about 8,000 years, maybe 9, until you discover Göbekli Tepe and then realize it's at least 12,000 years. And they don't like telling them that because they think it's, oh man, it was an absolute mess. The guy didn't understand any. He didn't know what plimsoll lines were and why they were used.
Oh, before you move on.
There's so much.
So before you move on. So again, where you say we don't even know that the great year exists, what you mean is, again, he assumes this part of the description within orbital mechanics, and then you point out appropriately so that isn't real. You're just assuming that's the case. Now, you might be able to assume it and then describe it quite well with a model, but it doesn't change the fact that he's begging the question of this description within an orbital motion.
Correct.
Any more? Do you want to plug the name of the show?
It was just a guy called Rob Parks. He's got a blue marble, the blue marble logo for his thing. I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything naughty because I know there's YouTube guidelines, but do feel free to wander over and listen to the show on double speed and just tell him how he gets everything wrong, because he got everything, every single thing that he said was all wrong. It's just he doesn't realize it.
Yeah, well, maybe he does. That's why he's there appealing to you to understand his wrong nonsense. That's why they do it. It's becoming more and more clear as time goes by. They're pleading with us to change our minds because we fly in the face of them having a consensus opinion about the sphere Earth they all believe in. Well, we are, what's the word when you're detestable? That's the one. We're detestable to them because we no longer offer them what they want. They want everybody to agree because then they've got consensus. And, they need to stop us from ruining that. Because they could go about their merry lives if the consensus all agreed. Us pointing out how wrong they are on a daily basis. Yeah, they need to appeal to us, not the other way around.
Right. So, Anthony, did he say science doesn't prove things?
Oh, yeah. Oh man, I went through how how it does prove how it does prove the alternative or the null, and you will establish one of them is true, and he would not accept it because he actually cited somebody called McToon, and I said, why are you citing somebody on the internet for what science does or doesn't, but you dismiss and ignore everything that I've just shown you for what science does establish, and it does establish the cause of an effect. And it's like I was talking French to him. He didn't understand anything I was saying, so he just he dismissed it flippantly because he heard McToon telling him on the internet, and I was like, oh, well, this is terrible.
This sounds awfully familiar. So it's kind of like, your other piled higher and deeper going to blue marble science on the internet to prove gas pressure without a container, that sort of scenario.
Oh man, if you've got a long drive to do, if you're driving between like Toronto and Vancouver or something in the next few days and you want to stick it on in background, it's brilliant listening. It's funny.
Is that Oh Daddy Boy that you're referencing there?
I don't know what that means. What's that?
Danny
Faulkner.
That's what I was referencing. Yes, Tent Man.
That's classic.
At least you got his name right. It's Mick Tunes. Nathan likes to call him MC Tunes.
Anyway,
Oh, right.
do you want
He
to
prefers being called MC Toon.
just summarise my comparison there, 10th? Now it's been dragged out a tiny bit. I want it dragged out a bit more. Go ahead, because maybe other people... I thought the reference was obvious, but if you got it and no one else did, then maybe if you can expand on it, what I'm talking about when I say it's comparable.
Was that addressed to me?
Yeah, I just want you to expand on what Danny Boy did.
Danny Faulkner. Yeah, from what I recall, having a sleepless night, my files in my brain are telling me that Danny Faulkner just randomly went on YouTube and got his channel that proved, and he cited it without looking at it. And it was the funniest thing after he was saying that all flat earthers just go to YouTube and grab things. So he did the very thing he was claiming we did, and then he didn't even do it right.
Presumably, Anthony rejected a few of your citations that make it perfectly clear what science is used for and how you'd have violations of the law of non-contradiction were it not to prove either your null or your alternative, right?
Yeah, he rejected everything I presented to him, right? What he wanted to focus on was, he said, show me one citation anywhere where it specifically says that you must have a manipulated independent variable. So I opened up my folder that I identified as IV, independent variable, and basically I've got 10 in there that say that you've got to manipulate the independent variable, right? And the minute I started going through them, he wanted to change topic straight away, and I was like, no, we're staying on this for a bit because you don't understand this, and I want your audience to see that you don't understand it. So here, on this citation, right, and then get this, right, He basically said, so I brought one up and I said, I think it was North Carolina, and it said that you've got to manipulate the independent variable. And then somebody in chat said, well, North Carolina also say that astronomy is part of science because it's in the science department. And I was like, brilliant. So now what we've got is North Carolina University, right? Thank you to that person who basically shows the contradictions in your science, because on the one hand, you say that astronomy is science. Okay, I accept that they say that. On the other hand, the same institution say that you've got to manipulate your presumed cause in your science test to be scientific. Yet you've got astronomy that can't manipulate anything other than look at something in a telescope. So now we've got two contradictory things from the same institution, totally invalidating the credibility of your so-called scientific research in the form of undergraduate studies in the context of science. And he absolutely hated that because he thought he had got me there. And I was like, no, it just shows that you're contradictory with your own science. It's contradicting itself. It's beautiful.
Right, but only one is true. And the fact that the same university has said, well, it's science, there's a lot of people in this audience specifically that will say, all right, so there you go. They're saying it's science, therefore the pseudoscience astronomers and their assertions are science because that university said so. Well, no, them saying so in a citation is a baseless assertion at face value unless you can back it up. And backing it up would be to say, with logic, if you have a statement, if A, then B, that's presumed cause of an effect A, and effect you're studying B, then if you cause it by varying it, then it can't, and I repeat, cannot sit in the null formulation. That's if A, presumed cause of effect, then not B, no effect. You can't both cause an effect and not cause an effect at the same time, and that's what the experiment gives you. Therefore, when we describe how science is empirical and how you've got to have a variation of a presumed cause and it's cited, that's got a logical consistency. I forget the advancement of humanity that comes along with it. Yet just saying that astronomy is science doesn't really advance humanity very much. And what have they got to tell you that they're advancing humanity? Well, we've got this model based on a load of assumptions about orbits. Oh yeah, that's really advancing humanity. They are threatened by you, Anthony. That's why they chewed up 5 hours of your time. They can. They're fighting to keep hold of their worldview. There's a Go on.
I realised that, I didn't realise he was new to the topic as what he clearly is, but he had all the cliches that like they used to make in 2016, and it's like he's not even aware that there's counter-arguments to them. It's like he's totally green. And like I was talking to him, I was like, it's like going back to 2017 for me, back in the baby days before we were learning how stuff didn't work on their model but couldn't really formulate it. And when I was like, literally, he was in the corner taking blows for the whole show. And he just kind of like very flippantly and blasé just ignored them all. And he was like, I was just like, this guy's an absolute idiot. But it's not bad. It's not good, man.
Well, I mean, ultimately, we've been removed from view for the majority, for the most part, I should say, and that's why I encourage people daily now to share the show. It's like the only reason we've got nearly 100 people watching is because people share the show, not because there's a widespread dissemination of this information. Well, that works as a double-edged sword for the people that are sort of precluding it reaching more eyes, as wasn't the case at 2016, 2015, before all these arguments got developed. You know, what substitutes us, on a side note, is anti-flat Earth. So if you search for us, you'll find anti-flat Earth. Well, that's not very useful. Finding the anti-flat Earth rhetoric first. Yeah? Well, it's also good because the guy who doesn't come across us and doesn't know there's a counter-argument, and here's some nonsense assertion from our opponents only, not only gets confused by them, given a normally globe debunking claim, claiming to be a challenge to a flat earther, when they finally get here, they haven't actually got the nub of the argument. So yeah, the people who are in the know might not want to come here anymore and claim that there's too many tactics used on that show. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you just don't want to come because you know the outcome. But the people who don't, they'll still come. Like this guy you're describing. I know he hasn't come to us, but in the same regard, he doesn't know of us. So he doesn't know of the arguments that he's having to come up against. He's not well enough armed to deal with someone like you. Now, given that there's several people that have come recently and basically declared how chomping at the bit they are, moaning that we're not in the trenches enough, and that they're out and about and what they're doing when they're out and about absolutely annihilating our opponents. And they're like, I went and saw some people that were died in the wood anti-flat earthers and I just absolutely annihilated them. And you're like, yeah. What, because they're not coming here? You think that the people baying for blood are going to stay within these walls? Nah, they're not. And I don't encourage them to stay or not to stay. Like I keep saying, it makes no difference to us. Come, don't come, whatever. I'll still have a show. We'll still be chatting. The panel will still be here. That might change subtly over time. But the show will still go on. It's not cognitively stressful for us. It is for our anti-flat earth opponents, but back onto the point. Your average normie hasn't got a clue what he's up against when he challenges this argument. And there are people like you, Anthony, and several others that are moaning at us at the moment, like we should be the ones going out when they're baying for blood. Like, my days of, bloodlust for Globers isn't just long gone. Really don't care. To the point where, we're all discussing, if they really want me, they'll have to pay me. Because there's really nothing in it for me. It doesn't satisfy my desire to convert these Globers to flat. I don't care. Go in peace with our belief. Good for you. Yeah, you can't measure it. Yeah, we debunked it, Black Swan. But beyond that, I've got no desire to be challenging these people and affirming my belief of my own doubt, which is what this really boils down to. Those people who were charged up initially on the flat earth side, I think a lot of it was projecting out their self-doubt. If I can convince you and the world how right I am, then I am right. Because they don't really know that they're right. And in many ways you could say the same was true for us until we got to about 2017, 2018. We started talking about the hijacking of science. That was really the point where we were, me at least, I've got to stop overgeneralizing, started to realise and be self-confident in what I'm actually saying. In other words, I don't doubt any of this anymore. There's no shred of self-doubt in terms of me asserting it. It's like, yeah, it's flat. And am I going to be embarrassed about that? No, that's just how it is. Am I going to be embarrassed for you and you challenge me on it? Yeah, I am. But that doesn't make me feel bad. Not really. But the empathy kicks in to a certain extent when I cringe. But beyond that, that's it. For the people on the opposite side, they're fighting for their world. Like, literally, the stakes are so high for them. And they want to chew up your time doing it, appealing to you, trying to bring you back into the fold, bring you back to the consensus, Anthony.
I don't think, Anthony, you wasted your time. I think we've all gained from the rehashing in the short version of what happened. I think what's happened is if the students go to university and they actually taught the scientific method in all its glory, they would doubt everything the professor says from that point on. So they don't, so they could push their model. So they're purposely not teaching the scientific method properly in order to push the heliocentric model, because if they did, every student would raise their hand and say, well, based on the scientific method, what did we manipulate to get that answer? Then it's not, it would cause chaos in all the universities. So they just gloss over it and teach it that science doesn't prove things.
True.
Well, they teach you early on in your life that it does absolutely prove things empirically. They teach you so young that you tend to forget. And it works so well that everybody around you wants to hijack the word of science when they talk about their measurements that are really good. So it's not that people don't understand it, it's just it's not reiterated throughout your education. In fact, quite the opposite. You know, things that aren't science are then declared to be science. But you're only having the word of science repeated to affirm that that means proof, when a lot of the things that are being used with that vernacular simply aren't science. But yeah, at a base level, almost everybody in the Western world who's had a Western world education knows that science proves things. It's just very narrow. And often, like I say, what's claimed to be proof and has the word science next to it isn't. Like with this guy. And they're going to defend their honour because they're used to using that magic trick and people going wow and swooning because they've said science or scientist. So everything you say is true from now on. That's the respect they demand, and they're not entitled to it. That's the bottom line here.
Right, but isn't the same trick done with gravity? It's a force attracting mass, and then when you get into higher education, no. That's what we said to you then. It's really force space. It's bending of space-time. Isn't that what they're doing there?
But that's just mathematics.
it's different
Reification
because-
of abstract descriptions in maths.
Yes.
Go on, Anthony, sorry.
No, it was me. I was just going to say it's different because where one is an empirical method, and then them tacking on things that aren't known empirically, so just hearsay, to what you're saying, which is one hearsay thing, and then being taught that it's not that, it's another thing.
No, I'm talking about they're saying gravity is this, and then if you're so fortunate to go to the higher education, they pretty much admit to you, no, that's not gravity. That got debunked 100 and so many years ago. So it's really this. And okay. So what they're not.
Well, they're not saying science is this and then saying, well, science is not really that, it's this. That's why I don't see the parallel.
No, Nathan just said that when you're younger, they teach you the scientific method. It's empirical, it's there. Okay, then as you get older, they just say the word science. They forget the rest of the stuff, and they add on all their heliocentric crap, and you don't even know what's happening to you. They're hijacking the word.
Yep, that is what they're doing.
I think I might
Right,
start
and then
asking them, well, what do you think?
Then it breeds these
What do you
anti-flat
think an
earthers.
example of? I'm sorry, just wanted to say that a question I might start asking them is, what do you think? Like, give me an example of pseudoscience.
They'll just go flat Earth.
Nah, you're right. That's so stupid. No, give other before flat Earth was here, pseudoscience was a word. In fact, it's in the Bible, as old as that may be. So that being the case, what is an example of pseudoscience?
Gravity. I'll just drop this in at this stage, right? Two things. Note to self, when I listen to this back, I'm going to turn off one of my compressors. Note to Anthony, we're not going to get through all of the housekeeping questions. We've done one. So therefore, I'm just going to randomly ask one of those housekeeping questions right now, which is there any scientific evidence on topic, good segue, Nathan, for gravity?
No, but what I can do is I can present some evidence that isn't gravity, but you can and should and will think of it as gravity evidence in future. So if I screen share briefly, I just need about 5 minutes, gents. So if you don't mind me muting up so I can get through it without feeling like I'm rushing. And when we get to the end of it, I'm not going to play it, Nathan. I'm just going to scrub through it. But basically, this is this lady. I've cited her loads of times, but I got this video from Rachel's latest upload, Rachel 50. This is a fantastic demonstration that we all need to understand for why this gravity argument is an issue, right? So what we're looking at is two beakers full of fluids that have got candles as the subject matter. Now the candle's been cut into 3/3. 1/3 is here, 2/3 is there. And you can tell by looking at it that obviously you're gonna think that this one's heavier than that one, but actually they're both the same density, right? Because although there's more mass, there's also more volume. There's less mass, but there's also less volume. Now, for a moment, let's just consider what the flatearth.wgs website says, this so-called debunking website. They use balance scales, and it says, an object falls down because of Earth's gravitational attraction, right? Well, we know that's nonsense. But some denominations of flat Earth claim that an object falls down to its density, not to gravity. Well, actually, it's relative density, not density alone. But it uses a balance scale of 2 litres of water relative to 1 litre of water. And they claim that same materials, same atmosphere, same density. It's not, though, is it? Because what they've done there is they've got 2 litres of water in the full pail, but they've got 1 litre of water, but only in half a pail. So they've got this. They have got the same density, but the balance scales is not considering the volume. So although it's the same density, the balance scales themselves are not considering the volume. If it was the same, so that's the point. So the balance scales takes no account whatsoever of the volume. So let's watch this in real world, right? Because this is brilliant. She's got 2 beakers, right? And what she's basically going to do is she's going to pick the first one up and she's going to drop it in, and it's going to do what you'd expect it to do, right? So she's got the fat one and it sinks. She's got the skinny one and it floats. But is that what you'd expect it to do when the density of them is the same? Ball earthers would. This lets you think that the mass of this one is bigger, so it sinks. The mass of this one is less, so it floats. But watch what then she does. She takes them both out. She swaps them both around, and now they're both floating in one of the liquids. And then when she puts them into the other liquid, oh, there it is. Now the little one, the big one's still in the right-hand side, but now the little one seems to have become the heavier liquid, the heavier mass, even though it's a smaller mass. Now seems to become heavier than what it was at the beginning when she put the long one in. So let's just go back to this. You'd have to watch this video to understand the point that's being made. So she's got the fat one and it sinks, and she's got the little one in and the little one floats. So hopefully, there we go. So fat one sinks, little one floats. Then she swaps them round. So now they're both floating in this one, and then a little bit further on, she puts it in, and now the little one sinks, whereas previously the fat one, the big one, sank. So what she's trying to get you to work out here is what's going on here. Why is it that the roles are reversing in the different fluids? And the answer is, of course, it's to do with the medium. One of them is tap water, and the other one is a fluid that's of a different density, but has got the same characteristic that it's see-through, like water has. So it falsely lets you think that they're both water when they're not actually both water. One of them's more dense than the other, and the candle, relative to the density of one, is more dense or less dense. So even though there's more dense and more medium, and more dense and more medium for the 2 candles, their relative density is the same. They both behave the same in the 2 set. If they go into the same fluid, they both behave the same. They'll both sink in this one, or they'll both float in this one. The only thing that's changed is the liquid that the medium it's in. So that's like me changing the egg with the salt water, right? So by changing the different fluid medium, you affect the way that it behaves. So basically what she's showing is it is the medium that is causing the acceleration. It is not a gravitational woo-woo force. It is not a buoyant woo-woo force. It is not an electrostatic force. It is the medium that's causing it. So this is a brilliant, brilliant video. I'm going to give massive kudos to this. Came from Rachel's video, but it comes from the channel Flynn Scientific, and the video is many years old, 2012, mass versus density. If you're not sure about relative density, watch this video. It's 5 minutes long, and in the end of it, you will realize that it's all down to the medium. It's got nothing to do with forces. It's got nothing to do with buoyancy. It's all down to the interaction between the 2 density objects that are identical relative to 2 separate fluids that are not identical and are of different densities relative to these 2. It's absolutely brilliant. So shout out to Rachel for bringing my attention to it, and shout out to this channel for demonstrating it.
Click on the share button for it. There you go. Right below where your mouse is. And then stick it in our live chat. So that's how easy it is to share. See all those Facebook, Twitter, email, see all those things that you can just share with? I'm talking to the audience, Anthony, while you stick it in my live stream chat, if you would. That's how easy it is to share this show. Just click on the share button right below where we're talking right now. Yeah? I know, somewhere down here. Down here-ish. Yeah, click on it and share the show. This one.
Click on that link, guys, and go and watch it. Like, stick it in your list to go and watch after this show, because it's honestly, if you're 50-50 on the density argument, right? Relative density argument, not density alone. Watch that link and you will realize that it's all to do with the medium. Brilliant science.
So, just as it came up in discussion over the last week or so, when flat earthers get the win and then don't realise they've got the win, and it gets distracted away from. So it's a step beyond what you pointed out about 6, maybe 5 years ago, Anthony, when you were like, hang on a second, this point has been subverted to the point where the rebuttal doesn't come, and then when the devastating argument is made with a conclusion, it's so far disjointed from the original point that it doesn't have any weight lent to it. So now we're at the point where, the two have joined. People don't get to subvert away from a point that's being made. But when that point's made and the person's heard it and they haven't got a response to it, and then they try and weasel their way away from the devastating argument that basically means the Earth cannot be a sphere and can only be flat, that's something that I was pointing out, not recognising the win. So yesterday we had a Kumo virus come on, and same old argument we had for, 2021 is the year or the age of the sextant, we're going to say, because of this argument. This isn't new, but I was intending to demonstrate this, and I managed it nicely with about 35 attempts at the point where the sextant, which is measuring two straight lines, cannot achieve a vertices or a vertex with a curved adjacent. Now that was put to him. He was asked where he was going to get this vertices for an angle measurement. When he's got a curved adjacent, that would be a sphere Earth beneath his feet. Now he can't, and there was no concession. After 35 attempts, there was lots of claims that I was using tactics and that I wasn't giving him an opportunity to explain his argument, when his argument starts with measuring two straight lines on a flat plane. Yeah? And every time it got to that point where he makes an angle measurement, I'm pointing out to him that, well, that's two straight lines, that's a flat plane measurement that you're making, it's not a curved adjacent like you'd have on a sphere. Yeah, in other words, the argument was concluded at minimum, I'm going to say 45 times, because it went on to another further 10 attempts with him trying to introduce a slightly different argument with the theodolite, but ultimately the same argument that required a flat baseline for his two different measurement points. So, although it could have been introduced, I just didn't want to nick it off QE as he came in with a perfectly legitimate piece of terminology, which is elevation angle. Now, while I didn't want to argue that because I'd clearly just be stealing it from him when he came in and mentioned it where I hadn't, but he's right. That is the argument. You can't have a curved adjacent. So when you're measuring your elevation angle, it's done on a flat plane. You're doing it with a flat line. Now that's the win. That's our win. We win. Flat Earth rules. We are on a flat Earth. There is no two ways about this. Now, further to that, this tool can equally be used as a globe debunking. It cannot work on a sphere. It's a beautiful flat Earth proof, is the sextant. Wonderful. Can only work on a flat plane. Now reaching the point, and this is the case with the virus, where he has to say things like, well, it's easier to just consider it as flat, the sphere I'm standing on, when we take these two straight line measurements that could only be achieved on a flat plane. He's having to disclaim that it's easier when flat. It just overcomplicates things if you don't think of it as flat, was his disclaimer. Now, that is, again, like I say, with 35 renditions of the fact that it can only work on a flat plane and it cannot work on a sphere. There's no way to describe the actual measurement being taken off a curved surface. It doesn't work. So, that being said, I want people to hopefully watch it. I've trimmed it out and cut it right down. It was a solid hour, possibly a bit more, that's been trimmed down to about 15 minutes. Which, as editing goes, that's the biggest ball ache job there is. It took me all morning. But anyway, I've done it, and I want you to have a listen to it. I've got jumps from maybe 5 attempts to maybe 12, 15 attempts, and then up to maybe 28 to 35 attempts, and all the periphery and repeating of the same thing with him chanting and Fundy muting it and then claiming I'm doing that to him has all been removed for the most part. So you could just hear the argument, the rebuttal, the claim that the rebuttal hasn't been given an opportunity to be offered, the rendition of the rebuttal that was refuted, and so on and so forth. That's what we're dealing with. It's a real, if you want, trench level, bayonets pointing right at each other's throats battle in terms of, even when you've won as a flat earther, you're up against people who will simply not concede that they have lost. Because if they do so, they are at that moment relinquishing their entire worldview. Back to what I was saying earlier. The stakes for somebody who wants to tie up someone like Anthony's time for 5 hours, the high stakes for them, for the anti-flat earther / glober, very high stakes for them. And depending on where you are in your journey in flat Earth, not very high stakes for you. Because you might convert one guy to flat Earth. You know, think of the last person that told you that they're also a flat earther, other than you going, oh, cool, high five. Did it have a massive impact on your life? Were you suddenly assured that, wow, the world's getting closer? Maybe for some, they think, oh, that much closer to the whole world believing as I believe. It's like, well, don't have it as a belief anymore. Establish in your mind exactly why it is that you know the Earth is flat, and then you won't care whether the next man knows or not. Like the anti-flat earthers and globers, respectively, do definitely care. It keeps them up at night. Please share the show, by the way. I know I plugged it earlier, or said the importance of sharing it, but please share the show.
It not only keeps them up at night, Nathan, they have to get away and take a break because the stress is too much.
Also coming out, as we're going to plug things that are coming out over the weekend, I trimmed out that bit about She-Ra. That's coming out on Saturday.
But when is the virus one coming out?
There's two, so I don't know. I haven't finished either of them, to be honest. When I say there's a lot of editing work involved, there is.
Well, that was very, if we can go back to that, that was very interesting. It took a long time, but this is what we've all been waiting for in the evidence of facts and arguments that have been going around on all the topics that are the housekeeping questions. Now, here comes the sextant. And me, myself, and others just want to see how they're going to respond to it. And we've seen an evolution on their part. Virus is now willing to say it's flat.
It can't not. That's how that tool works. It's brilliant. People wanted a silver bullet. Well, ours is made of brass. It's called the sextant.
Nice one, Nathan.
Wasn't it 10th that said he had a new sextant coming in the next day or two? Is that here yet? 10th?
Yeah,
Bubble
yeah.
sextant.
I got the bubble sextant. It's an A10. It was issued to the U.S. Army, and I have to do a little work on it, make sure the bubble works. But it looks like it's in good shape. But I'll be going on Mitchell from Australia's show. I think next week he wants me to come on, so we're going to talk about it. And there's a lot of talk out there about you don't need a horizon and you don't need to point your sextant at the Earth's horizon when you're at the ocean. And it's funny because it was the Black Swan in January 2020 that gave birth to the sextant idea. And Quantum Eraser and I agreed we should keep it on the quiet until the research is done. So I jumped into the research, and these people don't think that we have talked about the bubble sextant. These people don't think we've ever talked about an artificial horizon. So their response to battle what Nathan just said about the sextant, but you don't need the horizon. You can use a bubble sextant. You can use an artificial horizon. You don't always need the horizon. In fact, you don't need dip correction. Now, what I'm trying to set out for the audience is that was something we saw right away. And they think it's a win when they cite that. Oh, they're going to be so surprised.
Well, hold on. I tried to bring this up once before. Isn't that kind of true? Because the sextant blows past the horizon. Because all you need is a flat plane for the sextant to work.
Precisely.
So the horizon.
That's not the same topic that I'm covering here. What we're talking is if you don't have the natural horizon to shoot with the sextant, what do you do? If you're not in the ocean and you don't have the horizon because you're fogged in so tight you really can't sight the horizon, what do you do? Well, you just can't do it. Okay, so what's another way of doing it? And that's when the bubble sextant comes in and the artificial horizon comes in. And so I put equal time in researching those things as well. I've been saving those because they frankly wanted them to go down that route, and they have.
Yeah, I mean, it is tied together because what John's saying is when you phrase it, it cuts through the refraction. It's like, well, yeah, because the tool is just applying straight, flat geometry. Now, what 10th's saying is, well, if you can't acquire that straight, flat geometry from a visual horizon because it's completely fogged out and you haven't got anything at all, and you then try and do it with an artificial horizon, well, then it's linked to John's point, because what you're then doing with that methodology is still acquiring straight, flat geometry with a slightly different method, because you can't just point it at the horizon. So the two are linked. They both come back to having straight, flat geometry to apply to this tool. Regardless of where you acquire your horizon, either with artificial or real, you're still applying geometry, and that is what's the word? I was going to say irrespective. I don't think that's actually a word, though, is it? No, it's irregardless that's not a word. It's irrespective. It is correct.
Regardless.
Irregardless is the one that's not a word.
That's right. No, you're right, and John's right. But you don't put out all your cards on the table, and they fell for this one, and they're going to be they're so embarrassed because just the sexton and the way it works embarrassed them. Now they went down this road. Now we're further going to embarrass them some more. So just wait, it's coming.
It's Godzilla super chat that's prompting me that I'm going to start forgetting about them. So first and foremost, shout out to Bex for the 20 Norwegian krona. Thank you very much indeed. It says, we are the elite. Next, thank you very much indeed, Godzilla37 for $5 Canadian. He says, if Earth is not a globe, how do you have a photo of Superman flying around it, in quotes? Bobby's best proof 2021. Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much, both of you, for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. We might actually get to go to the housekeeping questions, Anthony, as there's prolonged silences after things like super chats.
Go, go, go.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
That came up in conversation as well. It was literally, they dismissed it with one line saying that's been killed and beaten to death. And I was like, really? You obviously don't understand it then. They can't kill and beat it to death. It's a delusion to think that you can. Oh man, it's bad.
Wishful thinking. I love those responses. We've responded to all of the housekeeping questions. Oh, really? So you think that I could consistently get up and not have the highest levels of stress by perpetual idiots coming to my chat and telling me on a daily basis how they've been debunked and making it more and more concise by the day? So by the end of it, you could just type in 3 or 4 words, or, maybe a couple of sentences that essentially debunk almost everything that we claim in the housekeeping questions. For example, us asking for you to give us an R value, the one that's been debunked because you can't measure the geometric curve. That would be Earth curve, the one we're asking about in this housekeeping question. You haven't got one to measure, we're told it's refracted. Yeah, that annihilates the claim that Al Biruni climbed up a mountain, measured on a flat plane, to then derive an R value by measuring the geometric horizon. That's how you got your R value. Now, that's an argument that backs up how, when we say, where's R, those couple of words annihilate you in any comment. Now, that's not you when you throw out these baseless assertions. We've debunked all of the housekeeping questions. Right, no. Like I say, there'd be concise summaries of how they were debunked in my comments daily, getting ever more concise if that was the case. Just saying it is wishful thinking. Assuming that someone more smart than you, if you're the one saying it, has debunked them. Obviously, someone out there has debunked it. We're on a sphere, so their housekeeping questions can't possibly be right. All right. Yeah, well, that assumption is also wishful thinking. Appeal to the authority that is the ethereal debunking of all things that are flat Earth. No, you need to actually assert how it's debunked rather than using your wishful thinking. Shout out to Dank for the super chat. No comment, just gives me money. Thank you very much indeed for the $5.
Shout out retracted for $5.
Nathan, I got a couple of slides in Master B if you want to run a summary on it, just on the previous conversation.
On the sextant, or on the bubble sextant specifically?
Elevation angle.
Oh, great. Yeah, cool. Yeah, let's go and grab that. Actually, while I'm doing this, I'll say the video that does come out on Virus, while it is one of the reasons it took a lot longer to edit, it's also one of the reasons it'll be a really good video. And that's because throughout this process, we've got a 10th man on the panel, and our 10th man happens to have gone and gathered up some of the best pictorial descriptions and indeed literature-based references from globe believers about the subject we're discussing. So it means that when Tenth's giving his description on the fly in debate, when I go back and edit it, I've got this great long list of perfect images to slide alongside the discussion. So when Virus says, well, yeah, if you want to say that the LOP's got a radius and that's flat, that's fine by me. I've got it on screen. Because why? Well, not because I've got it. Like this now, hence me basically giving thanks to 10th Man for all his hard work. Because but for the fact that he'd done that, the videos just would not be as good. So when you watch that Virus video and see all of these images popping up, know this, I haven't got a single one of them. They're all 10ths. So thank you very much for making the video that I'm still in the process of getting finished. As good as it is, because that's basically down to 10th. Another shout out to Julio Pabon before we continue. I have got it up on screen, but I'll just shout out Julio. I'm thankful for God for creating a beautiful flat earth. Me too. The world is beautiful. Absolutely, completely agree with you, Julio. Yeah, and that's something that people are lacking. Shout out to Colin Drescher for the super chat. Let's start putting it up because it's obvious there's a bit of a super chat roll going at the moment. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Julio. Also, shout out to Mike. It said dank. I don't know why it didn't appear on one of them, but it did on this one, dank. So there you go. I've read out your super chat. Thank you very much again. And Julio, thank you very much to you. And to Colin Dresser, thank you very much to you as well. But yeah, I want to reiterate, Julio, people don't have enough appreciation. We talk about the stars and stuff all day. Ask yourself this if you're an audience member. When did you last go out on a clear night and spend 10 minutes appreciating them? Like just cricking your neck a little bit and have a look. I bet it was a fair old amount of time ago. I might be wrong. But, you know, we do live in a very, very beautiful and mysterious world. Now, I say this with the biggest of smiles on my face, because that's fantastic. It's one of the best things ever. And I had it before Flat Earth, and I've still got it now. A true wonderment about the world you're living in. So, yeah, thank you very much to all of you for smashing the super chat. I'm really poor. So I do appreciate it. Your elevation angle description is on screen, 10th. Take it away.
Yeah, so basically just type in those words, and I just used the first one, but there's plenty more. I'm just reading some of the ones that follow this one. But the angle of elevation is widely used concept related to height and distance, especially in trigonometry. It is defined as an angle between the horizontal plane, an oblique line from the observer's eye to some object above his eye. Eventually, this angle is formed above the surface. There's three images there of showing pictorially, but go to the next slide. I went and grabbed one of them, and you'll see how it's shown in celestial navigation terms as you do your. I'm waiting for you to go there, but I should go there.
I'm there. It's just your live stream's not caught up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So as you can see here, you've got the sun directly overhead somewhere. There's your horizontal plane in order to get the angle. Two straight lines meeting in the corner. That's sea level all the way to the GP of the sun. Now, on a curved Earth, that can't work. So you can't get an angle to work on a curved surface. It's the adjacent. It's got to be flat, like you see here. So the zenith position of the observer is obviously referenced here. The zenith position of the sun is also obviously referenced here. The observer has a GP, a geographical position on the Earth. The sun has a GP where it's directly over the Earth, and that's distance is what you want. So you shoot it with the sextant, you get a right angle triangle, and that's how it works. You get this right angle, and that's why you see the box there. So this is why they don't want us to say 90, because it's a 90 degrees has a adjacent bottom line, and it's flat all the way from the observer to the GP of the sun. So then you minus your reading from the 90. So if in that picture, it's, say, for example, 50 degrees angle, well, then you minus that from 90. You're 90. That's fine. What's 50 minus 90? 40. What's 40 times 60 nautical miles? 2,400 miles. So you're 2,400 miles away from the sun's GP. So if you know where the sun is and you got the nautical almanac or the air almanac and you've got time set to Greenwich, England, you can figure out where you are based on knowing where it is to you distance-wise. And that's why celestial navigation works, because you need an angle. And to get an angle, it's two straight lines forming a corner, which we call a vertex, the point that they meet. And the sextant is an angle measuring device, nothing more, nothing less. That's our claim. It cannot work on a curved surface. So it's working. It's been working for centuries, which means what? Earth's not curved.
Means Earth is flat.
I would like to point out in Temp's description of the pure geometry that there's no Earth curve between the position of measurement and the GP of the star.
And by the way, that's not my image. That's their image telling you how it works.
They're all moaning about me e-begging in the chat. So I might have to do a GoFundMe when I get these 2 bills. So, you know, if I start a GoFundMe, it'll be something to moan about. Chatters moaning about my e-begging. I am poor. What do you want? I had to moan to my wife about how much I'm e-begging at the moment. It's like I'm having to e-beg a lot.
Maybe you should, for shits and giggles, just revamp your whole studio again and just, I don't know, get a couple of grand to blow it all on your studio again that you didn't really need. Just to do it.
Again, I've been buying 1 or 2 panels for the last 2 years to do this studio. So it's not like I've just blown a couple of grand on this stuff. You know, sacrifices, man. I've made sacrifices. Spent the last few pennies that I've got each month to buy a panel or a couple of panels. So last month I bought a couple of panels secondhand on eBay. But that's what I've done for the last 2 years. Because, yeah, I do want to treat the studio, but I haven't got the money to just treat the studio. So it's like, okay, well, I'll buy a panel for 100 quid. Or I'll buy a couple of cheap panels. Anyway, we're in the middle of the live show. This is definitely after show or pre-show territory. I'm just saying, the people in the chat who are moaning about me e-begging, at the moment, I'm waiting on 2 bills for pieces of equipment that I literally need to run the show, and I'm struggling to, because I can't hear my guests clear enough at the moment, because I've only got 1 amp, 1 channel. And that's out for repair, and I don't know how much it's going to cost. I've also got a projector that's fucked, excuse my French, and I'm waiting for the bill. So when those 2 things come, if they're horrendous, which they probably will be, then I'll do a GoFundMe, because I've e-begged solid after 2 crappy months, and all it's done is got me out of my overdraft and kept me, like, flat. So it's not like I've actually raised any money to pay for any of these stupid bills that I'm going to end up getting. So I am, after doing that, not wanting to do a GoFundMe, probably going to have to do one. And I'll be honest, it's humiliating. Nobody wants to e-beg for anything. You just want to be able to sustain yourself with what you do. You know, when you spend all day, every day doing YouTube, you just want to sustain yourself, and you don't want to ever have to mention it, because it's crass. No one wants to hear me talking about money. It's crap. But there we go, that's life. And on the other hand, I've got great people around me who do actually support me when I do these things. And for all the people moaning about it, well, tough luck. You know, I'm not concerned about the subject matter, the technical issues and the aspects of entropy that I have to deal with for having a long-term running show on this subject. You know, those are things that I'll just have to reach out and get help for. But if you're one more point. If you're a flat earther, I'm not ever reaching out going, I really need help on how they're proving it's a sphere. Just know that much. That's really all that matters. Because for you, the guy who's like, I'm not giving you anything good. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking the people who want to give me help to give me help. But you can have this. Know that we're not asking for help on flat Earth, are we? We're not asking for any awkward questions to be answered that we're finding tricky. Or it's not keeping us up awake at night in that regard. So that's where I'll stop my little justification for e-begging constantly at the moment.
Hang on, Nathan. Go to Master B while John asks this question. Last 3 slides before you end the show.
I got something too.
Okay, we're starting with the one with the periscope guy.
Yeah. Do you want me to go, John, or do you want to ask your question quickly?
No, go ahead, Tim.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, as you can see here, this is a guy using a periscope bubble sextant. This was invented due to the fact that once the planes went higher, the pressurized cabins, and they can use the plexiglass dome to shoot the handheld bubble sextant. So here's a guy demonstrating how he would use a periscope bubble sextant. Go to the next image, please. So the next image will show a gentleman when the planes were not pressurized would have to take a handheld bubble sextant and use it through this little dome-shaped acrylic feature on top of the fuselage and sight the luminary with the bubble handheld sextant. Now, it's pretty obvious that the handheld sextant on Earth, on top of a boat, is done similarly. It's pretty obvious. Let's go to the next picture. Last one to end on. This says it all. And I'm just going to let 5, 7, 8 seconds pass just so the audience could just view the picture, allow the picture to tell you what's happening. All right, so now you've had time to look at this picture. On the left, you see a person holding a handheld sextant, as you would on top of a ship. If you go to the 2 previous images of a person in the plane holding a bubble sextant, whether if it's the periscope or the handheld through the plexiglass dome, see that bubble? That's horizontal. They're saying you need a flat baseline to do it in an airplane because you ain't got the ocean, you're not shooting the horizon, and dip correction is not needed on bubble sextants or artificial horizons. And this picture tells you why dip correction is not needed, because you're already assuming it to be flat, plain baseline. The reason you do dip correction when you're actually using the natural sea horizon is because you're 10 feet above sea level. It's over.
Yeah, it is over. Earth, obviously, observably, measurably, navigatably flat. Shout out to Titan Long for smashing the super chat. Says for technical difficulties, yeah, thank you very much indeed. I really do appreciate it, and yeah, there are plenty of them. And I do appreciate all of you who've smashed the PayPal link, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, all that good stuff. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Which is my time. I don't get enough money to do this, and I'm not going to provide the service anymore. That would mean that we then got to go and find some other, and I'll use the word intentionally, church, to go and find our religious views, and then to be told how stupid we are, not realizing that the reality is that literally they have churches and we call each other out and we don't have a church. And it's not nice always to like, for instance, if you're Bob Nodell or if you're Brian and we don't agree with something you say, that we're not going to sit there and pat you on the back and say, yeah, it's okay, and turn a blind eye to it. If we don't agree with what you're saying, we will call that shit out. And that's what doesn't happen in churches, that you have to then go and find if Nathan wasn't here doing what he's doing.
Yep.
Yeah, see, you're addressing flat earthers. I'm addressing like everybody on the globe side of the argument. They would be tickled to death if Nathan said, you know what, I need the money, so we'll stop bringing up the sextant if you donate. He'd be rich tomorrow at this point.
What's crazy is like this, like it's very, very weird to me how far we've come and how far the anti-flat earthers have not come with us. Because you wonder, well, how deep does the level of absurdity go? Like Nathan was when he was sharing his sentiment about, before, I wasn't, as confident as I am now in the information and the scientific method, but now I know that the earth is flat. Well, yeah, that's how I feel. And it's like after the black swan, then after all of the other things that have come up since then, and now with the sextant. Now, 10th man, he posts something in the chat and it says elevation angle. I'd never Googled this. I never typed this in. And you Google it, and it shows you like it shows you exactly what Tenth has been talking about. Excuse me, guys. It's been showing exactly what he's been talking about. Every time you look at the part that's supposed to be the ground you're standing on, it says horizontal plane, zero angle. Like, I don't get why they can't just go, yeah, it's everywhere. It does seem that they're saying it's a plane in order to do this trigonometry. So, like, why are they still anti-flat earthers? It's so annoying. That's all. I don't know.
That's because QE came out with the elevation angle on top of what I was sharing and just made it concise with just that argument, and they can't stand QE, so they're not going to admit to it.
Well, I asked that question at one point in time is if we weren't here and they still had the information that they do, would they be able to maintain? Like, it's almost as if they need someone to direct their cognitive pain at. And if flat earthers didn't exist, would they become the flat earthers then?
The answer is their model dictates. They have to say these crazy things, like five-sided squares. We brought them to this point where they have to double, triple speak. You guys heard about the five-sided square?
Yeah, no, good point. I had a visual when you said it, but go on, describe it.
Yeah, let's hear about this five-sided square.
Well, courtesy of Ranty, they came up with this ridiculous fantasy they found on YouTube, and now they're saying that a square can have 5 sides with 90 degrees. Also,
a cube.
if that's not enough, you guys heard of Ruhif's latest?
We just assume not. I don't watch any of this crap.
Neither do I, but he came to us. Well, Ruhif's latest is you can have an object both stationary and moving at the same time. Yeah, I know. Let it sink in for a bit.
The accelerating coffee cup? Yeah, that's their gravity, their premise for gravity.
If you have a coffee cup on a table and you're inside of a plane, I guess, yeah. So?
I mean, but it's no reason. It's no reason. Look. They hijack things that would otherwise make sense. Like something can be stationary and moving. That's why in the 70s and 80s there were stationary bikes. There are still stationary bikes. But we know what it means. It means, okay, well, you're going to be working out. And the bike is going to be moving like any other bike, other than the fact that it's actually stationary. Like, people get that. But when they try to tie that into their religion, that's the problem. They're always trying to tie something that's just an aspect of life, tie that into their religion. It's just annoying.
So are you saying, Eli, are you saying with the stationary bike, are you saying, Eli, with the stationary bike that they're trying to peddle something?
Yeah, man. And they're getting nowhere fast. You know
Good one. Then there's the other ridiculous one, courtesy of Bev, next level. We have a straight line that can curve. How do you like that one? Ballers?
I didn't hear him say that word. No, Bev didn't say that. A straight line that
Bev
can
didn't
curve.
say that. He made them say that. They say that. Ask a baller if a straight line can curve. See what he tells you.
Well, geodesically it can.
AC Montreal.
Yeah, bro.
Can you hear me? I've had 4 times.
I hear you.
I have 4 times in recent times, since the sextant argument came up, I've had 4 ballers, and they're not nobody ballers, tell me that a radius line can be curved.
There you go.
Bam.
Muted.
That is, for me, that is the
Press the button
absolute
there.
top.
Yeah. And the up button, you're trying to go to the street? Oh my God. Am I
I had a
hot
guy
micing?
the
Yes,
other
you are.
day
Come
tell
on,
me,
Eli, you.
My bad.
It's okay. Go on.
Go on mute
Was it,
when you park
was
the
it
truck.
Eli? There's
Yeah,
me scanning up and down through Discord going, who is causing that? It's bloody Eli.
Hey, talk to us more about that radius line curving, Brian.
Yeah, 4 times it's been said to me that radius lines are a curved line, can be a curved line on the surface of a globe for the radius of the circle of equal altitude. They can be an arc, a curved line on the surface of a sphere. 4 different times I was told that.
yep, and 10th Man is doing a number on them with the sextant. Shout out 10th Man. So all fronts, it's at all sides assault.
Yeah, it is. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Actually,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, it's not me.
Where we
It's
mark it?
geometry. It's the way the tool works. That's what's doing the number on them. There was not one flat Earth sextant website. I mean, I searched. I was just begging. Can I find one flat Earth? There wasn't any. All the
Let's see.
material came from baller sextant sites. They believed it's working on the ball. Then I said, all right, how does this religion work? Where they got an angle measuring device that could only get an angle with 2 straight lines meeting in a corner. You got to have a vertex to get that angle. They say that in all the research. And how do they get that to work on a ball when the surface is curved? So there I went. I said, okay, so citation after citation, book after book, reference after reference, speaking 2 sides out of their mouth. They're saying this is how it works and this is what it is, but then they apply it to a ball, which is the contradiction. And so since you're going to hoist a model over reality, the tool cannot be misdescribed. So you describe the tool right, sextant, how it works, proper. So I pulled all those slides. I pulled all those quotations. And then I laid it over their model, what they're trying to sell. It doesn't work, but it's all coming from the same source.
Yes. Well, I was just going to say, and you put that word sell in there. And I feel like the majority of us, probably a very small, if any, minority here in the Nathan Oakley ecosystem. But for the I don't want to say movement, but the people at large who understand that there's more than meets the eye and something fishy is going on at the very least. I feel like they're in sell mode when they need to get more into close mode. There's nothing to sell. We're not selling anything. If anything, we're closing the door. Oh, no, thank you. I don't want any, So like that being said, I know Q is doing a good job with his numpty clips, and Nathan also has his clips, and there are a ton of other people doing massive groundwork. I just think that we could do better marketing on the side of showing people and in the short and sweet context, showing people how ridiculous they are. Like the leveled as curve thing, like with a little bit of context, you can have gas pressure without a container with a little bit of context. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's this marketing strategy that we could use to cover much more ground. It's because it's like they're saying these things, but my family doesn't hear them. Like, it's like when someone says the craziest joke and you look around to see who's listening, and it's like nobody's listening. It's like,
hold on, you think it's not getting around, Eli, but it is. I'm telling you, it is. More people are hearing than you think are not hearing.
I agree with that too. I guess this would be me contradicting myself, because when I'm on Facebook, there are people that say, "Oh, you sound like a Nathan Oakley puppet." I'm like, "How do you know him?" So maybe you're right.
Wow. We have our own language, do we?
Definitely listening, and it's definitely getting around. Don't let them fool you.
Well, in many ways, what we do sets the precedent when it comes to like the technicals, even of argumentation in general. Like we lay out how people in denial keep on going and strategize as we oppose them like no others out there.
Yeah, I think that's
Right?
what the super chat meant from that guy earlier on when he was like, "We are the elite." Bex, I think it was, said, "We are the elite" with his super chat. That's what he means, right? Tip of the spear, cutting edge of the arguments, setting the precedents. It all means the same thing, right? Yeah, you're right. There's no other, as far as I'm aware, place that you could go that's covered absolutely every single argument for this subject. Anything that new comes up is either going to have come from us or very quickly be presented to us.
Right. But
I
what
agree.
I'm saying is people out there start to recognize our way of saying things, even over technicals about subjects in themselves. So we're not even being recognized as much for the technical details of our subjects and our arguments, as well as we are for our very strategy of dealing with people in heavy denial that won't give up. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I just had a thought in my mind about when I was selling stuff as a career. I was just focused on my product, how it worked, and the benefits of it. Of course, I had to know what the competition was. And so when I'd go to sell a product, I talk about what my product does, how it works. Then, of course, because I did the homework, the potential buyer would say, well, what do you think about this one? Because I'm in between either buying yours or this one. Now, at this point, I said, well, I've studied that product. What feature do you like most about that product? And he'd tell me the features. I go, well, I have all those here. So do you know what we have that they don't have, or can I show that to you? And then I show that, and I get the sale. That's what we're doing here. We know their product. A lot of us came from their product, right? And so it's like we know their product. And then we're asking all the good questions about that product. But we have our product, the truth. And people say, you know what? I'm coming over to your side.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
used to
sure.
work for that company.
Yeah, unfortunately for me as a YouTuber in this subject, when that is the case, there seems to be an inverse in terms of how well I do as a YouTuber. Now, obviously, I win as soon as someone comes and watches the show, but if there's less people coming and watching the show and there's less revenue, I end up e-begging more. Well, that's what I was trying to explain when I'm like, well, I'm not e-begging for help with Flat Earth. In other words, that's completely covered. But, you know, while as much as I hate to be slightly jealous of my anti-Flat Earth counterparts when they get all the promotion and see the rapid growth that I don't, I have to deal with that and say, well, okay, I just have to suck it up and accept that I'm going to have to ask my audience to share a lot. And when needed, I'll reach my hand out. And fortunately, that's met with people saying, okay, I understand, and helping. But for the fact that people do share and do support, yeah, unfortunately, that's where it hits me the most when we're doing the best. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I just see less and less impressions. That's the amount of opportunities given to people out in the audience to actually watch my video. So okay, that's just yet another thing on the list that I've got to react to in terms of, okay, I'm getting less promotion. So I've got, what can I do other than ask people to share more? That's all I can do, right? I can't open up any more avenues of my own to share my own show with. But that's what you've got to do. You just react when it's the case. But that's what they're going to do, isn't it? If you have an opponent that's doing really, really well in the argument, you've got to hit them somewhere else. That's what else can you do? Because they're not winning against us in terms of saying, yeah, you can get curved adjacents, the sextant will work on a sphere. You know, there's every avenue been cut off in terms of proving the sphere at this point.
Right, well, they just closed the door, so they apply a siege on our platforms by limiting the amount of people that are going to have recommendations involving our shows, or even like turn off bell notifications, really weirdly and all that. So yeah, that's what they can do. But we get more focused people eventually. People leave the show, or rather, like, stop watching the show, having watched the show for a while, a lot more informed and usually more capable in actually making an argument on the spot than people that are all gathering in masses over at Fight the Flat Earth and Simon Dan, that are very easy. It's very easy to get there, but you don't really learn a lot. It's just a hang around place where there's a lot of storytelling and that's it. People are not getting informed there. That's the difference.
Sure, but we do have discussions here while you've mentioned a couple of our opponents' channels. Earlier we had someone mentioning Quantum Eraser and mentioning Bev. You're like, good. You know, if anything, it's good that we're talking about people like Bob Nodell, because they're getting mentions. It means that they will be getting publicity, as much as I say it in the positive when I'm getting horrible people make videos about me. I say, well, it's a great advert, but keeping my name out there then. Well, the same is applicable, but should be spun a bit more positively when it's people on our own side like Bob. It's like when we're mentioning him, we should really be saying Bob from the YouTube channel Globebusters, so that people do go and subscribe. Same when we're talking about Bev, you know, from the channel Try Thinking, so that people can actually go and reference the people that we're saying, oh yeah, he's got good information, yeah, he's putting out the good clips. So yeah, it's good to actually promote, because we aren't going to have people other than the ones that have already found their way here. And in that respect, it's like, well, there's several 100,000 people that are subscribed to these channels cross-platform. Well, that's more than I've got as a subscription base. Therefore, I can only pay it forward and hope that by mentioning Bev and by mentioning QE and by mentioning Bob from Globebusters or Jaren or whoever it is I'm promoting when we're talking about them, that gets paid forward, because there's plenty of people within the community to go around. But I would say the majority of them haven't heard about me, which is a crying shame and isn't going to be solved by the platform. So it's like, okay, we'll recognise that couple of 100,000 people
Nathan
minimum.
Oakley's on.
Go on, say again. One more time.
Somebody in the background was obviously saying something to him, and he's saying, "Hey, don't interrupt my piece. I'm having my moment here. Nathan Oakley's on."
Fair enough.
Don't you touch that dial.
Nathan,
Trying to get the wife on, Nate. I didn't know I was unmuted.
That's okay. No, feel free. I'm waffling away.
Housekeeping question. Hello?
Hello, QE.
Yeah, potential new housekeeping question. I put it in Ballbuster Skype.
Oh, this sounds like
I read it. It's very good. I just didn't get a chance to bring it up, QE.
Okay. We're in the after show. I suppose there's no harm in discussing this now. Have you run it past Earth?
I ain't running past Earth. I'm rogue.
I don't know if I can even look at this then.
Speaking of Death, have you seen Jake the Asshole's latest video?
No. No, tell me.
That's a trick question.
So Jaren did a video recently about this baby thing, this baby theme, right? And I don't really like it, but Jake's attacked it for whatever reason. And one of the points that he attacked Deep Inside Death on was the he basically glorified like domestic violence, because there was this big black dude throwing this skinny white girl across the room into a television, and he trivialized it. And Jake the Asshole jumped all over it, saying how repugnant it was. And then Jaren deleted the video. Jake's then gone back based on that deleted video so that you can't see it anymore. He's then gone back and basically shown how Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole's rebuttal to why the video was deleted. Basically, it's just, you need to go and watch it. I can't really repeat it how Jake does it, because he does it in such a vitriolic way that I wouldn't actually do it.
Why are you advertising for him?
Because it's actually an interesting perspective of what he's got on it. I mean, I don't have any beef in this battle, but the point he makes is really legitimate. And it's like, that's interesting. Go and watch it. I'm not saying I'm batting for him, but like watch the video. The point he makes is legitimate.
Look at this.
What is the point?
Look at this, right? The most hardworking people who put their, their reputation out on the line. They're upfront about who they are. They give all the disclaimers. They pump shitloads of money and time off their own back into this subject, right? Now, of all those people, number one on that list is Dearth. But he gets the highest amount of shit internally. It frustrates me, really. You know, as much as we joke about Dearth being the boss and running this, this has got nothing to do with Dearth. Dearth has no say in this. I'm just joking, if anybody might take that seriously. Yeah? Dearth's just a good guy. Yeah?
Well,
and
Go and watch the video and then make the decision whether he's good, bad, or in the middle.
He is a good guy, Tony. One freaking incident, like where they all go off the rails, doesn't make you a bad guy. It makes you a guy in autumn time that's going through some shit, perhaps having some lap of judgment. It happens to the best of us.
But you're saying he said some wrong thing. Let me get it straight.
Is so
hold
annoying.
on. In the same way, let's just... QE's here, isn't he? Yeah. When QE shows the clip of the kid walking into the fridge door, right? That's child abuse right there. So if we start focusing on him getting pinned up against the wall and asked about it, and he gives a really crap justification, yeah, just for the sake of argument, well, in that instance, just suddenly we start focusing on that. It's like, what the hell are we doing? Does this matter? Is this clip literally...
pointless barking.
Go on.
It's just pointless barking at everybody, right? It's just looking for a target and then saying, "Oh, it's all bad, it's all bad." What's this going to accomplish? It's only overall discouraging, right?
The clip that QE shows the stupidity of the parent, not the child. That's the point.
I don't think it's a stupid point that Arwin raised. I think that it's actually a valid point. And if you want to see the point that he's raising, go and check the video out and see whether you agree or disagree. And then maybe we can have a conversation about the point that he makes that Arwin thinks is useless. But the point is raised, and in my opinion, it is a legitimate point to question. If you don't agree with that, then we've got a conversation. But at least watch the clip before.
Let me get it straight. Hold on. Let me just get it straight again. One more time.
You're talking about me as if I know the point. I don't. What is the point?
Yeah, that's what I was going to clarify, Owen. The point is some personal remark DITRH as an individual has made about a clip that can be perceived in a way that's negative. So nothing about the subject, nothing about anything he does within the subject, just some personal view that has been taken one way or another from DITRH as an individual, correct?
Not really. You've simplified it. It's a clip that doesn't have a positive angle to it. It's not a clip that you can take as a negative. It's a clip that doesn't have a positive angle to it whatsoever. And it's one piece of several pieces that's presented that it makes you think, just go and watch the video and see what you think.
No.
Can we get on to QE's?
Don't tell us just Google it. Say it. Say what you saw. Say what was special about it. Don't tell us to watch it. Say what.
No, because then you're taking my hearsay evidence of it rather than seeing it from first hand yourself.
In this instance,
what I want. That's what I want because I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, that's what we want. Exactly, Arwin. Just tell us, Anthony. Just fill us in. We're in that deep already.
I don't want to do it here, so that's why I'm saying go and watch it. I don't want to. You
brought it up, man.
You brought it up. Exactly, Eli. You brought it up. We're already neck deep in this. Your avoidance of this is going to make it into a bigger of an event than it needs to be. Or just tell us.
Or you could just say, "I'll go and watch the video and we'll talk about it tomorrow."
Yeah, but I won't.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no point talking about it now, and I'm not going to butcher it unless you go and watch it. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. But all I'm saying is there's a legitimate point he raises, and I tend to think, if you don't accept that, then okay.
Okay, so let's keep talking in vague terms about something we haven't seen. Okay.
In one sentence, then why are you bringing it up?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if that's the case, forget that he brought it up. You said watch a video. We'll fine, great. Now, I agree with 10th Man. You don't want to talk anymore about it. We can't watch it right now. So let's get to the new housekeeping question.
Yes, which is absolutely epic. Yeah, I was hesitant at first. How could I ever have doubted that it wouldn't be absolutely amazing immediately? Can you do the honours, please, QE? Everyone else, please be quiet for a moment.
Can anyone show a curved adjacent whilst obtaining an elevation angle?
One more time.
Say that again. Can anyone?
Yeah. One more time. Go ahead, QE.
Can anyone show a curved adjacent whilst obtaining an elevation angle?
Absolutely beautiful.
Visually show? Or do I show a model? Because I could geodesically show you, I think.
Anyone show a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
That's it?
Absolutely not.
That's like asking someone to just demonstrate That's like trying to get someone to demonstrate gas pressure without a container. That'll never happen.
Yes,
and you
it
know what?
will.
All of
You
these.
just need 2 containers. That's all.
All right, Baldwin. All these interesting questions. It's actually how ridiculous they are is like someone ask or is like us asking, okay, show me an invisible man. It's like,
Okay,
because it's
just want to.
I like
impossible.
This is.
I like the acquiring in there. Change that to acquiring. I like the way you said that. So, can anyone show a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle? That's the one.
Just all props to QE, obviously, for formulating that into a housekeeping-worthy question, and it definitely will get added to the housekeeping from now on. I think that's absolutely brilliant, and it's apt that it should be a housekeeping question, given the monumental significance of 2021, the age of the sextant. So yeah, I'm pleased. Oh, nice little surprise to today's show.
You're welcome.
You can never defeat the ball, QE. No matter how many housekeeping questions, we will always be able to avoid them.
I'd like to thank my fans,
QE was
my mom
slacking.
for having me. Just everyone. I love everyone.
World peace.
That is so not true. If there was any anti-podal statements, that's it.
Then again, if you wanted to make some money off of this, Nathan, you could say, well, just stop bringing up the sextant if they donate to your GoFundMe, and you'd be rich tomorrow. Like every ball tart on Earth would jump out and give you money to stop talking about it.
Yeah, but the whole point of the
See, the
show is for
problem-
them to come on and stop me talking about it by demonstrating how wrong it is. That's the purpose. Not pay me to shut up about it. That would be like selling out, but more similar.
Well, you could use a pay-to-censor system, and just simply, if the demand is very high, just keep increasing the price, right?
Demand
it's
for
going to
what?
be costlier and costlier to not bring up certain housekeeping questions.
What you're suggesting is that I should be paid for my silence. In other words, keep your mouth shut about the sextant. They tried that, though, didn't they, with their own kind? Don't mention the 90. Well, you're saying, well, you could offer that as a service. Not mentioning the awkward
you
90.
just up the rates. You just up the rates, so eventually they're going to stop paying. So you will. It's not like a permanent silence contract. It's just pay to temporarily not talk about it, and the price is going to keep increasing, right?
That
How
is
much is my silence worth to you?
Well, that's like a gagging order, like a paid. It's like paying for someone's silence. That's what it is. How much will you pay me to not talk about the 90 degree? You know what I mean?
Word. It's called selling out.
Yeah.
Hold on. How much? Didn't anybody want to know how much that's worth to them?
What, me not having a little jab every day about how wrong they are in their worldview? How much would it be worth for me to not cause them that pain? I don't care.
It'd be interesting to see what they'll pay you. It doesn't stop the rest of us talking about the 90. And you can always say perpendicular or right angle instead of saying 90.
Well, would you take £100 a day to not mention R, for example?
This is farcical.
Well, it's interesting that that's all they do in celestial navigation is mention 90. That's all they do.
It's not farcical, Nathan. It's not farcical. Very likely, they would pay you £100 a day, not to mention all. Very likely.
Okay, I beg to differ, but there we go. We'll just have to agree to disagree, Brian.
Well,
I wouldn't want it.
George,
No, I wouldn't want it either.
1 second, John.
I wouldn't want it.
George Netchuk
Even
tried
if
to
you...
buy out Brandon's channel.
Say again.
George Netchuk offered Brandon $10,000 US for his channel.
I wouldn't want
Only
it.
a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it.
But that's the point. They're willing to pay money for us to go away.
Sure. But I can't remember how long ago it was I said this. Maybe it was in the middle of a Patreon-only live stream or something like that. But I was saying I'm more grateful to the people that I know they haven't got the massive amount of money to give me, and they give me like $10 or something. So at the end of the live stream, somebody sent me £15. And I'm eternally grateful. I'll send them a thank you email once the live show finishes. It's playing heavy on my mind that I need to get on the email and thank them, right? But if someone came along like George Netting and said, I'd give you 100 grand to shut your channel down, I'd be like, no.
Well, I started this off as a joke. Maybe I shouldn't have.
No, you're missing the point. It doesn't matter what your morals are. No offense, but no one gives a fuck what your morals are. The point is they're willing to pay you to shut the fuck up. Now, sorry for the person, but you need to get this. They are willing to pay money for us not to be here. What does that tell you? I mean, if there's never a bigger red flag for the general public, that's it.
It tells
means
me
we got them running
him.
scared. That's what it means.
Yeah,
we got them running scared.
It's even like it's open blackmail, and they're admitting it. It's like it's not even a secret. They're just like, yeah, you're blackmailing us with your information. I will pay money for you to please stop. Except it's not even a
No. That's a mercy plea. So you know in the movie where the bad guys, it's right at the end of the movie, the good guy's got the bad guy on his knees, knife to his throat, and the bad guy says, I'll give you 10 times what your employer's paying you. And the guy goes, no. Because at that point, it's not about money, is it? Like, this isn't about money in this regard. And no matter how poor I get in that regard, it'll never be about money. But look, you're really, really poor. If I just gave you this, would you just stop talking about, I couldn't do it. I couldn't live with myself.
Well, your
Speaking about money, Nathan,
financial...
Let me take this opportunity to shout out Nathan for what he did today, and Dearth. I'd like to shout out Dirt. Two of the biggest guys. They didn't have to do that, but yet they shouted out Bev, next level, and Dearth put it on his app thing. So shout out to you, Nathan, and shout out to Dearth.
Yeah, I'm sick of this shit with Dearth. I mean, I'm a fan of RV, and RV's had issues. He's brought them up, he's raised them, they've addressed them one another, and it's kind of faded away now. Kind of how it should be. Yeah, it's not great that was the scenario that arose. So what? It's been dealt with. But it seems to have continued. Other people have jumped on the bandwagon of, let's have a little bash at Dearth. You're like, what the fuck? It pisses me off royally. It was the same when it happened to Patricia Steer. You know, like, really nice people tend to get it the worst. It just annoys me. It's like, why? Why Dearth? Oh, right, he's done some little thing that you don't like, so you're going to publicise him and badmouth him. It's like, what the hell? Pick on somebody that's crap at doing this.
Well, I feel like why not Bob Nodell? Why not Bob Nodell? Why aren't they picking on Bob Nodell? He's the guy to pick on. He's the guy with the big mouth.
No, he's not.
Like we should be talking about
Why? Hold on. No, stop. I'm not going to let that slide. If it was Bob Nodell, I'd be saying the same thing. Right? He's done a lot in this community. Hold on. Just everyone who's triggered, stop.
Oh.
Doesn't matter if we disagree with him on certain aspects. If it was Bob Nodell, I'd be saying the same thing. Pick on someone who's crap at this. Doesn't matter that we disagree on relative density disequilibrium versus incoherent dielectric acceleration. We're talking about something so hyper-specific that you would say, oh, right, well, just sod it. Let him bash Bob. No.
Yeah, on the fact that Bob makes claims, right, that he will not back up. He won't support with any kind of experiment that adheres to the scientific method. And then he calls us wrong, right? He never defines what it is he's talking about. He never proves his points. And he just continually makes claims. And when he's cornered on these claims, they become his opinions. So, yes,
the point is not,
he should be chased down, hunted into a field, and battered.
No. The point is not that he doesn't do that. And the point is there's a whole bunch of shows on Netflix that I could be targeting that is a way wider reach, that is just showing globes all over the place, talking about pseudoscience as if it's science, and it has a much wider reach and a bigger impact. And I'm sure my daughter's watched something on there, and I'm sure she hasn't heard anything of Bob Nodell or Durr. Like, so you guys be mad at the wrong stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Exactly.
My friend,
while
I have
you
a story to refute what Eli said.
Well, fair enough. Go ahead.
My friend, who has nothing to do with any of this, she's just an open-minded girl. When I told her that I was a flat earther, she in solidarity with me, sent me a video about electrostatic bias down, whatever the hell they call it these days, because they keep changing the terms. Right? She sent me a video about that. So if people think that Bob Nodell's nonsense and Zach's nonsense is not getting out there, oh, it is. And it's targeting the most open-minded audience who don't do their research on these kind of things because they're not the things they're into. They just go, oh, this must be the new gravity. And that's the problem.
You said you were trying to refute me, but the first thing I said was it's not about what he's saying.
Well, it is. Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what he's saying and the effect it's having that people aren't seeing. She didn't send me something about relative density. She sent me something about electrostatic, whatever. God knows what.
Eli and Brian, let me just try this a different way. Recently, Phuket Word got into a debate with a concaver, and after it was all said and done, my attitude towards it was that concaver was far more on our side than average Joe Normie. Because even though his model fundamentally disagrees with every principle that we demonstrate with things like sextants on a daily basis, he has recognised lies from the mainstream, to the point where he's completely got a different worldview to the mainstream. Concave Earth's very different to sphere Earth. Doesn't matter which way you dice it. He's not got normie mainstream views. So from that point of view, you go, is it worth focusing my attention on concavers? Because Lord Stephen Christ is out there, and if you don't believe that he's getting through to people, believe me, he is. There's people out there that saying it's concave, and there's people out there saying it's incoherent dielectric acceleration with a downward bias. Yeah? But when it comes to that concaver, I can easily make the argument for him being not worthy of attack. Even if he's saying we're stupid. It's like, yeah, so what? In many ways, he aligns with us much more than he doesn't. And what Eli's saying is, well, I can easily reference some Netflix stuff that the majority of the Western world are watching, as opposed to in our niche community, where internally, where we pretty much align on most of the main principles of this, i.e. we're not in line with the Western world, we are thinking it's flat, even if we don't, on some parts, believe it or know it. We're aligned, like we are with the concaver. He knows mainstream's nonsense, we know mainstream's nonsense. So should we focus our energy on attacking him, especially when it's about minute detail in this regard with Bob? I say no. I say it's not worth the energy, and if anything, it's going to cause us more harm. Now, if your response to that, which it was, is, well, he tells us we're stupid, I'm like, yeah, so does the concaver. Still not worth your time, and will be of more detriment. You know, lead by example. If he's slagging us off, let him. Let him tell his audience we're wrong. Fine. If they've got any due diligence about them, which is really the main audience we're hoping for, not that we get it, then they'll research it. They'll check what we've actually got to say, and they'll see which one's the most logical. But us focusing our attention on that particular piece of minutiae in terms of incoherent dielectric acceleration versus relative density disequilibrium giving you a vector versus a downward bias, right? That is so hyper-specific that the spillover is miles more negative in the effect that it has than the discussion itself. I'd rather promote him. I'd rather promote Bob, especially as opposed to attack him. That's the main point here. I've done. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I think you should pay attention to what I'm saying. Is that I'm attacking what he's saying concerning the claims he's making. I'm not attacking him personally. I don't care what he looks like. I don't care what his financial situation is. I don't care what he does in his personal life once he's not damaging people. You know, other than that, none of my business. I don't care. I'm interested in the argument he's making. But the argument he's making involves claims that he doesn't back up, doesn't support, but yet he continues making the claims. And when he's cornered on these claims, because he's done it twice, if by memory with me, he turns them from claims into just his opinions, and he's allowed to have his opinions. Now, when he's not cornered on them, they become his claim that he's not supporting and not backing up. The person who's near you, who you think is on your side, is also the person in the best position to stick a knife directly in your back. Now, right. I'm not going to say any more on it. You can ignore the whole lot if you want.
No, Brian, can I say something?
No, I want to address... not yet, Arwin. Hold on. Hello. Not yet, Arwin. Brian, yes, I agree. And when you qualify it in that way, I completely agree with the discussion taking place. I'm not going to stand in the way of that. But this was juxtaposed with Anthony describing a personal reaction to a video of something occurring by Dearth, which is like totally different to an on-topic discussion. Do you see what I mean? But when you said, well, no, I think it should be comparable to Bob, why attack Dearth? Well, when we're making that comparison, we're talking about just people shit-stirring about personal crap and reactions that have got nothing to do with the subject matter, versus you saying, well, in that regard, why don't you just attack Bob? It's like, well, because when you juxtaposed it, you're talking about something hyper-specific that is on topic, and I'll give you that. That'll be discussed all day long when it comes up naturally. But the shit-stirring bit that you compared it to isn't a reason to attack Bob. Yeah, him being wrong on a certain aspect, fine. Him and how he reacted to a kid getting hit in the face by a door in a changing room? No. And that's what's happening with Dearth. Very different.
Right.
Well,
yeah,
my point being, 1 second, Aaron, sorry, I just very quickly. My point being with that is, why waste your time with personal attacks on nonsense when there is a very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very obvious person to address. So all these people, why aren't they addressing Bob on his nonsense? Why aren't they doing this? Why are they going, oh, Dirk done this, or Jeranism done that, or RV Truth said this? Who cares? All these people should be addressing Bob on his claims and his nonsense that he's not backing up.
Yeah, what they want, Ryan, because you are very on top of the mechanics in detail. You're right on top of it, so you can not attack Bob, but engage in argumentation with his viewpoint and his arguments, right? That's what you're doing. That's not that wasn't what we were talking about. We were talking about just like piling on, ad homing, trolling, spreading negative characteristic rumors about people, that sort of thing. That's not what you do. You just engage on a technical level. That's
okay, thank you. I just want to put, hold on, just a second. Just want to put Brian's position to him in terms of what he's suggesting. You're suggesting that the individual discussed when it's Dearth being attacked should, instead of attacking Dearth for this stupid nonsense, should be saying, Bob, why is it that you're asserting a downward bias with an incoherent dielectric acceleration when it's clearly relative density disequilibrium, flat Earth asshole? You should put that to him. Jake the asshole, because obviously this YouTuber Jake the asshole is going to be able to concisely detail how incoherent dielectric acceleration with a downward bias isn't comparable to the relative density disequilibrium you can create when you introduce salt to a solution and show an egg in displacement, because Flat Earth asshole can concisely summarize that for Bob Carney. Brian.
But that's the point, Nathan. If they shouldn't be focused on the bullshit, right? Sorry for the more language. They shouldn't be focused on the BS. They should focus on, if they're going to attack someone on our side, well, I don't consider Bob on my side, but if they're going to attack someone who is on this, supposedly this side, then they should be focusing on something, an argument that's not being backed up, a claim that's been put out there as fact that has no basis. That's what they should be attacking, not wasting their time with personal nonsense.
Yeah, but these people are, you're talking about, I said hyper-specific, tip of the spear discussions for people who are at the kind of level that they just attack somebody's reaction to a video on YouTube. You know, you're at different ends of the scale, and, you know, you want someone like Jake the asshole to look at the actual parts of the argument that are relative to the nature of our existence, as opposed to one man's personal view on a reaction to a video that he might have said something that they didn't like, or came across badly, or made him seem like a racist, or made him seem like a pervert, or whatever the hell he's picking on that particular individual that's got nothing to do with the discussion. It's like, hey, Jake the asshole, you should focus on how the nature of reality isn't affected by this baseless assertion made by Bob Nodell. Yeah, you're never going to get that out of someone like that who's doing that in comparison, though. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, I'll drop the subject.
Because Jake is just not that technically interested. He's more a on-the-scene guy. He's more interested in personal things. Shit stirring. That's his thing.
Well, he did bring up like 4 years ago that the model was crap, the AE model, and we shouldn't be claiming models. So he's got that.
Can we get back to QE's housekeeping question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it again and have a little bit of discussion on it because he already said, hey, let's use that word. Let's see if we, I mean, I like it, but let's talk about it a little bit more.
Hey, do you want to kick us off? Did you want to repeat it or did you want me to?
Well, I tried to write it down. It says, can anyone show a curved adjacent while acquiring an elevation angle? Did I write it down right?
Yeah, that's perfect. Can anybody show a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
Beautiful.
So let's break it down. Curved adjacent means that you've got a spherical surface from your feet where you're measuring with a sextant and the line to the celestial object you're measuring, let's say the sun. So you've got one straight line and one curved line. That doesn't give you a vertices, doesn't give you an angle, it doesn't work. An elevation angle would be when describing, let's think of Virus yesterday. He's described moving back to measure a star and watch it dropping towards the horizon as you move away from it. Well, to do that, you need a baseline, and that is your elevation angle. Well, the elevation angle would be straight and flat. So to ask, like, as is beautifully done with most of the housekeeping questions, the answer is built within the question. You can't have a curved adjacent when you're utilising an elevation angle, because that's your flat baseline. So it's self-explanatory within the question. It's the perfect housekeeping question, QE. It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, that's why I said it sounds like how do you have gas pressure without a container? The it's kind of self-contained question.
Been about 2 years since we've added one. The last question we added to housekeeping was any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, which I didn't like because it's a bit of a mouthful. There we go.
Yeah, but to be fair though, I actually utilised that in full last night for a good hour, battering this guy claiming to do science because he was an astronomer, and I basically used that housekeeping question to batter him because nothing that he came back with was science. So it stuck in my head. So although it might be a bit of a tongue twister to get it out, it's really, really effective.
But can anyone show a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle is just so much better than any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. Because you run out of breath saying it.
So see Mr. Sensible's basketball that you've got on screen right now, and that little thing that he's got behind, that'll be the curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle, right?
But
No,
you can't visually show the curve, though.
No. Elevation angle. Right, that's two straight lines, Anthony. Yeah? Curved adjacent. Curved adjacent won't give you that. So when you say elevation angle, go on.
If you apply it to that picture that you've got up now, then you can make the point a lot easier because, like, sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words, and when you first say that the first time, you've got to think about what you mean. Well, apply it to that picture, and then it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no, I've got a better picture that shows this. I'll dig it out from Skype. Just give me 30 seconds. Talk amongst yourselves. It's the one I use from 10th Man. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, so like with the new housekeeping questions, when you're using these words and giving them a specific parameter, and then they just that goes against their globe model, then they don't want to assert their globe model claims at all. They're just going to go completely against all claims and assert their own parameters that don't equal anything. It's just to completely go against what you say and what the information that we're given by the globe model claim.
Interesting you should say that because it's strictly not true with this particular brass bullet. Because whenever you're measuring any angle on the surface, you're measuring it by utilization of your elevation angle in the first instance. So yesterday with Virus, why didn't he ever get to beg the question of a sphere? Because he's first making a measurement, and that measurement's always going to be a flat Earth measurement. So because he never got past the where'd you get your curved adjacent from to assert as you would on a sphere, he can't then say, well, first I'll get this angle measurement. I'll measure the star with two straight lines to get my angle. Then I'll back away from it, and then I'll do the same thing again. Because the moment he does that, he's doing it on a flat plane. Now, this housekeeping question essentially says, when you measure anything ever, how'd you do it on a curved surface? Given that the curved surface would preclude you measuring that angle. That's what the essence of the question is. So it means that they never get, like Virus didn't, he never got to beg the question. He's like, we're not at that stage yet. That's what he said. What he means by that is, first I've got to measure the angle on a flat plane, then I've got to move it to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. But the actual measurement of the angle itself will only ever be done on a flat plane. So they must do it first, and then, after measuring a flat plane for an angle, then afterwards they put it at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. So they beg the question after the measurement. Well, this is a first. This is beautiful. So you're telling me that they don't start this argument by begging the question? Nah, because this argument starts with an actual measurement being taken. And when you make it, you're utilising an elevation angle to do it. Oh, right. That's useful. On a flat plane.
It's over.
It's game. Exactly. It's completely game over. They don't even get to beg. They don't even get to beg the question, Neil. Right?
But so he's following Baldwin tactics. That's how I tried to defend it.
Listen, I just got it, man. It's over.
You just got that, did you?
Well,
just
I'm
now.
looking at it in my mind as Nathan's talking, and it hit me so clearly. I mean, geez, it's over again.
When Bob came here with the sextant claim, right, his whole shtick was to try and get the angle to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth without begging the question of R, or showing or labelling it, or whatever he was doing to try and dodge having to answer for R. But the whole point of his presentation was having the degrees that he's talking about coming from the centre. So he's got to get it to that stage. Now, he just started with the sphere on a board. But at some point, when you're actually talking about the measurements that we do in reality, they're all starting flat, without exception. So you say, okay, let's talk about measuring a star and its dip towards the horizon at 1 degree for every 69 nautical miles, as he claimed. We back away from it. How are you getting the angle to give you a difference? Well, you're getting it from a flat plane, because the tool being used must have that. Like I say, so he's got to do that first in every example with this argument in mind. So no, if I assume the Earth's a sphere and then go and measure an angle with a curved adjacent... No, that isn't how they start this argument, and never will. They start, and always will start, like Al-Biruni started, with a flat plane. So this is the padding out of the Al-Biruni measurement of the mountain. Al-Biruni starts, he looks at the mountain and says, how high is it? Well, I'll do triangulation off a flat plane with angles to get the height. Then I'll go up, and I'll invent a geometric horizon with dip angle, and then do the geometry again, but on a sphere. Well, he's got to start from a flat plane. Well, that's how this argument wins us beautifully every time. Not only does it not work on a sphere, you can't use a curved adjacent to get an angle. It won't give you a vertex to give you that angle. Furthermore, it must start, even for the glober, on the plane. Now, 10th Man knew this beginning of 2021. We all know it now. I'm now making it as concise as I humanly can. About 3-minute waffle so far. Game over, man. Game over.
What do you think about labeling these people who deny globe claims as well and flat Earth? What do you think about labeling them as anti-flat Earth?
Like I did about 2 or 3 months ago. Copyright Nathan Oakley 1980. I think it's an excellent idea.
Sweet, because that was a topic on Wednesday night that I had, and I had seemed like a panel of judges here, and I had to state my case about labeling these people. That way, either newcomers or even veterans in this Discord know how to handle these arguments and go about their day, because arguing with these anti-flat earthers wastes a lot of time, and it gets you nowhere, because no matter what you claim, globe or flat, whatever, they still will deny it, and it's just like a whole waste of time, and it gets you nowhere. And it'll also help these newcomers avoid these people until they're ready to start debating with these people who just deny everything.
I don't think they should avoid them. I think they should take them on as they cross their path. But when they do, recognise when you've won. It's just, I mean, I'm going to plug my own video. It's coming out in the next couple of days. I don't know when. I haven't even given it a title yet. But it is the debate from yesterday with Virus. And at 40 to 45 repetitions of the argument that he won't concede, you're saying that's a waste of time. But people need to be prepared for that. They need to be prepared that they're going to be there's a bit of self-doubt that creeps in if you don't really know the argument well enough, or you haven't experienced someone literally being capable of denying their loss 45, 50 times, 100 times. We see it all the time here. But if you don't know that you've won in the first place and that happens, it'll only take one attempt from the anti-flat earther to move away from your win. There's no party poppers and champagne going off. It's just suddenly you're onto a new subject. And hopefully the audience doesn't notice that you won. Me, I'll rub it in 35 times telling them how they're getting slapped around by my balls.
Yeah, I'm not saying to avoid them like entirely. I mean, you could debate with them all you want, be my guest. But I mean, once you already have those debates, 10, 20 times, and they're just circle jerking you left and right. I mean, then what's the point, But for people who don't know these people and aren't quite ready for, because they could make a bad name for flat Earth. Usually people say, "Oh, well, you flat earthers." They group all our beliefs in a whole, even though you might think differently or know something differently than that person. But now the anti-flat Earths or globalists, whatever, they're going to use that against all flat earthers and just give everybody a bad name then.
Yeah, that's standard fare, actually. QE summed that up a couple of weeks ago, and it's like almost all of their arguments start with the stereotyping fallacy. That is to say, flat earthers say that, blah, 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 right? And you're saying if some individual does one of those faux pas, they'll take that and say, here's an example of my stereotyping fallacy where all flat earthers make this stupid claim that, I don't know, Greenland doesn't exist, Australia isn't real. Something like that, right?
Right.
Well, there's some educational use in showing how much they'll deny the obvious too, because like you said, a flat earther that's not confident in the argument may miss it, may just walk past it, and that's not helping them. But if they can see someone embarrassed with it enough, it might click at the point of where their opponent's position becomes untenable.
So is Mitchell not from Australia or Greenland, I take it?
No, that's just some
These all
claims that flat
CGI,
earthers have made. Believe it or not, early 2014, 15, that's what some of the things that were coming out of flat earthers. Just crazy crap from idiots. And, there was a lot of people that would come up to me and say, yeah, you don't think Australia exists. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, isn't that what Brian was trying to say? Some crazy people are coming and saying, hey, you guys believe in incoherent dielectric.
Right. If a stereotyping fallacy is going to be the things you're concerned about defending against, then, yeah, you're going to be highly caught up in various claims that crazy people in this particular arena that we associate with make. And you'll preoccupy your time with it and justify it. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't discuss it when it comes up in subjects. It's just another part of the nature of reality that's got a claim attached that we can either, agree with or disagree with or debate or whatever we do here. But chasing after it, I don't think it's a great idea, or encouraging others that they should chase after it when they're behaving like shits, I think is a bad idea also. We should lead by example in terms of how we behave and treat our other people in this arena. And if we disagree with them, yeah, we've definitely set the standard in that regard. People know how we'll behave if we disagree. We're not going to pander to you just because you're a flat earther. But by the same token, I don't think it's necessary to proactively go out and chase them down. So, you do you, and if it comes across my path and I have to deal with it, I will rip it a new one. But just to answer the guy, what's in it for us when it's a complete waste of our time and we've dealt with it 100 times before? Well, again, that was something that a couple of weeks ago, everything's a couple of weeks ago at the minute, we talked about in terms of, albeit tongue-in-cheek, well, you can pay us. That's the response I really should have given to Pat Brittenden. Like, you want me to debate with this tosser, Katz, that's gone through all of our arguments and gone through the responses and hand-waved them all. Right, if you want me to go through that rigmarole with someone I've done it with already, then you can pay me to do so. Here's my fee. Yeah, you want me to listen to the same old crappy, dusty old 2015 arguments again and again and again and have them chant through me as I try and refute them? That you can pay me for that.
I'd just like to make the point that I don't know how aware you are of this. I'm going to use yourself, Nathan, as per what you've said. But I've made this point many times in the past. The number one weapon that our opposition have against us, character assassination. If you go back through history, the number one thing that was used against us was character assassination. And that's what they're using still. So we can't, I'd have to disagree with you on that. And say, you can't, I wouldn't just kind of say, it's not that big a deal, or, you know, when they stereotype fallacy, all these kind of things. It is a big deal because that is the number one weapon. They've always won with that weapon. They've never won with facts and evidence. They've won with that weapon. And that's why it shouldn't be ignored.
No, fair enough. You're absolutely right. I can't disagree with you because you're right.
I mean, just look at these damn diagrams that like bruh. What else is there to say, man? The 45 minutes past the hour with angle of elevation definition. The angle of elevation is a widely used concept related to height and distance, especially in trigonometry. It is defined as an angle between the horizontal plane and oblique line from the observer's eye to some object above his eye. Eventually, this angle is formed above the surface.
Game over, man. Game over. Right, with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.